Chapter 1024. It's not as easy as you say, Jianghu shook his head helplessly. Looking at the contract in his hand, he said with a troubled expression, the Yu clan is not easy to talk to. I think it would be good enough if we could keep our bottom line and get a secret manual. As for the highest contract, I don't even dare to think about it. Jianghu was usually a man of few words, so he had no confidence in his negotiation skills at all. Moreover, he did not have as many connections as Jia Tuyao did. At this moment he was completely at a loss and did not know where to start. What are you afraid of? With me around you can be at ease. At that time, not only will you sign the contract properly, I will also give you a lot of additional conditions. Xiao Chen's tone was as relaxed as if he was buying vegetables in a market. Yes, I believe you. Jianghu nodded. He trusted Xiao Chen very much. Since Xiao Chen had said so, there would definitely be no problem. Xiao Chen smiled, stretched his body and said, let's go. There is nothing to study about the contract. Bring me to the Jia mansion for a stroll. I haven't really strolled around since I came here. After we finish strolling around, we will go and kill the Yu clan's people. Jianghu agreed. He did not think too much and left the meeting room with Xiao Chen. When he reached the door, Xiao Chen unintentionally turned his head back and saw Jia Sholuo and Jia Ruijing smiling evilly. They were chatting with Jia Renzhong with their arms around each other's shoulders. Jia Renzhong's face was red, as if he was answering Jia Sholuo's question. Seeing this scene, although Xiao Chen was a little curious and surprised that these two fellows from different factions would join hands, he did not intend to use his divine sense to eavesdrop. He just kept an eye on them and walked out. Father Jianghu and Xiao Chen seemed to be quite confident. Could it be that they have someone supporting them in secret? Seeing Jianghu and Xiao Chen leave indifferently, Jia Tuyao could not help but be a little puzzled and asked suspiciously. Tisk, with just these two bastards who can support them? Jianghu snorted and snorted. Yesterday he cheated and won the match by cheating. Today's match was a random draw. He didn't know who his partner was beforehand. Besides, even if he knew who his partner was, with me around he still had no advantage at all. Alright, you don't have to worry so much. From his point of view, Xiao Chen and Jianghu simply didn't have any competitive edge. On the contrary, Jia Huoyan's threat was relatively greater. This was because Jia Yubian controlled the Heavenly Jade Mine. Although he had lost some of his influence, his accumulated prestige still existed. He still had a lot of authority over his business partners. Jia Tuyao responded with an "oh," then rubbed his nose. He didn't pay any more attention to Jianghu and the others, but focused his attention on the group of people surrounding Jia Renzhong. Jianghu pondered for a while, then abruptly said, Tuyao, you wait here, I'll help you arrange things so that the signing of the contract will be smoother. Jianghu thought for a while and still felt that he had to show up and communicate with those guests so that they would do him a favor. On the one hand, his son could win the match with the highest contract, and on the other hand he could indirectly make the guests give the other contestants a hard time. All right. Jia Tuyao responded. Seeing Jianghu walk out of the door and walk towards the reception room, he turned around and saw Jia Ruijing walking towards him. He walked up to her and asked, how is it? Did you find out anything? Do you know which sect the others are going to talk with? Young Master Tuyao, I've just asked around. Jia Huoyan's people are pretty tight-lipped, so I haven't found out who they are going to talk with yet. However, I've secretly seen the contract in Jia Renzhong's hand. This kid is quite lucky, he actually got to exchange spirit jades for natural treasures, which is the easiest item. What a lucky kid, said Jia Ruijing with an envious look. Just now, he was sent by Jia Tuyao to inquire about the contents of the contracts of Jia Huoyan and the others. However, Jia Sholei was obviously on guard against him, and also wanted to inquire about the items of the contracts of Jia Huoyan and the others. Both of them chatted back and forth for a while, but both of them found that they couldn't gain any advantage. Therefore, they unanimously decided to first target Jia Renzhong, who was alone, and then fight with their own strengths. After Jia Ruijing and Jia Sholei reached an agreement, they went to Jia Renzhong to inquire about the information. Jia Renzhong was usually a lone wolf, and lacked experience in communicating with others. Although Jia Renzhong and Jia Sholei were vigilant against them, Jia Sholei still managed to get some information about Jia Renzhong and Jia Sholei. Damn it, why does this kid always have this kind of luck? Jia Tuyao murmured, took a few steps back and forth, then said to Ji Yunshu, in this case you go find my father as soon as possible. He should be meeting with the leaders of the other sections. You tell him about Jia Renzhong's task and ask him to deal with them. Let's deal with the partners of this kid first. He also knew that Jia Huoyan and the others were not that easy to fool, so he could only pick the weakest ones first. Alright, I'll go right now. Jia Ruijing nodded and couldn't wait to run to the reception room. Jia Tuyao threw a glance at Jia Huoyin and the others, snorted coldly, put away his contracts, sat down on the other side and closed his eyes to rest his mind. An hour later, all the contestants and helpers walked into the reception room on time. Jia Jinyan had been waiting here for quite a while. Seeing that everyone had arrived, his two trusted subordinates walked over and slowly closed the door of the reception room. In the spacious reception room, a few large tables had been placed on each table, and on each table was an eye-catching number plate. Sitting across each table was a man dressed in ancient clothes. Obviously, he was invited by Jia Jinyan to participate in the negotiation competition. In order not to disturb the others during the negotiation, all the tables had been separated by screens. Although it was a bit crowded, it was well hidden. Therefore, even if there were any small movements in private or the final decision of which bottom line to use to sign the contract, no one would see it. However, Jia Yubian and Jia Yuto were not in the reception room. Both of them were elders of the family, one was in charge of the mine, and the other was familiar with the family's connections. In order to avoid arousing suspicion, they had to wait in another place. After all, it was their sons who were participating in the competition, and Jia Jinyan was supervising them on the spot. Therefore, they couldn't go too far, and could only wait outside for the final result. The competition officially starts now. Everyone, please sit at the corresponding table according to the number plate marked on the envelope you drew. At Jia Jinyan's command, all the contestants took their seats one after another. After exchanging a few words with the guests, both sides started to talk amiably. The person who was negotiating with Jia Muzin was a Yu clan member named Yu Lingchuan. He was about 50 or 60 years old, and his position was one of the Yu clan's chief stewards. Usually, he was mainly in charge of discussing matters of cooperation with other martial arts sections. Almost all of the Yu clan's resource allocation had to be approved by him. It could be said that he held great power, and his power was monstrous. Chapter 1025. Hello. Uncle Yu, I am Jia Muzin. Today I want to talk to you about the cooperation between our Jia clan and Yu clan. Jia Muzin walked to the table and bowed respectfully to Yu Lingchuan. This was the first time he was negotiating with someone, so he was subconsciously nervous. Xiao Qin stood behind Jia Muzin, one step away from him. On one hand he could observe Yu Lingchuan's expression from above, and on the other hand he could secretly release his divine sense to eavesdrop on the other cubicles. Hello Xiao Qin. It's not the first time our two clans have cooperated, you don't have to be so nervous. Come sit. Tell me what kind of cooperation you want to talk about this time. Yu Lingchuan smiled and waved his hand. I'm sorry Uncle Yu, then I won't be polite, let's get straight to the point. Jia Muzin sat down and took a deep breath. He took out a contract from his bosom and placed it on the table. He tried his best to speak in a gentle tone. This time, our Jia clan wants to use 100 pieces of spiritual jades to exchange for the Yu clan's 3 handwritten martial arts manuals. The detailed contents and rules are all in the contract. Uncle Yu, please take a look. Okay, wait for me to wear my glasses and take a good look. Old people are really useless. If I don't wear a pair of reading glasses, I won't even be able to read. Xiao Qin, it's not that Uncle Yu is taking advantage of his age, but you have to take good care of your eyesight at your age. Otherwise, it will be troublesome if you become like me. As Yu Lingchuan nagged, he took out a pair of glasses and slowly put it on his nose. He picked up the contract on the table and squinted his eyes to read it carefully. Okay, take your time, there's no rush. Although Jia Muzin said that, he felt weird in his heart. His nearsightedness was caused by his genes. Otherwise, who would like to wear glasses for no reason? Moreover, wasn't this Yu Lingchuan in charge of the Yu clan's resource allocation and cooperation? He should be very familiar with this contract. Why did he have to read it page by page? Xiao Qin glanced at Yu Lingchuan with a disdainful sneer. He could tell with one look that Yu Lingchuan was wearing a pair of flat lenses which couldn't correct one's vision. At most, it could be used to block out sand or UV rays. This old thing was probably just trying to stall for time, putting on an act. It was just as Xiao Qin had predicted. Yu Lingchuan read the 3-page contract repeatedly for more than an hour, but he still had no intention of stopping. He continued to read item by item in a leisurely manner. When he reached the last item, he flipped to the first page and started reading again. Jia Muzin was a little anxious. He didn't know that there was a problem with Yu Lingchuan's glasses. He thought that Yu Lingchuan was really too meticulous and had to read every word and sentence carefully. He couldn't help but feel a little unhappy. The Jia family was one of the top 3 families in the martial arts world. Was it worth it to take advantage of him? Cough cough. Although he was unhappy, Jiao Muzhen did not directly interrupt him. He only coughed twice and indirectly reminded him. Xiaosun, what's wrong? Is your throat uncomfortable? If you have a cold, remember to see a doctor as soon as possible. Don't belittle a cold or a cough. Back then, Uncle Yu relied on his youthful vigor and thought that it would be over after a while. In the end, when he was old, it left behind many chronic illnesses. Sigh. Yu Lingchuan sighed heavily as if he didn't understand Jiao Muzhen's intentions. Instead, he gave him a sincere lecture. Oh, I didn't mean it that way. Jiao Muzhen finally realized that Yu Lingchuan was simply stalling for time. He quickly said, Uncle Yu, you have already read this contract several times. If you have any problems, feel free to raise them. I can also make some adjustments and give in appropriately. Xiaosun, one look and I can tell that you don't know how to do business. Yu Lingchuan looked at Jiao Muzhen with slight reproach and said patiently, look at what you are saying. Our Jia and Yu families have been working together for decades. How can I let you suffer losses? The most important thing in doing business is to be mutually beneficial. If you give in, I will suspect that you are giving me a defective product. It's all right. This is only a competition and not a real collaboration. As long as you agree to sign the contract, I won't lose anything by giving in. Jiao Muzhen felt a headache as he quickly explained. What you said isn't right. As a senior, how can I take advantage of a junior? Yu Lingchuan took off his spectacles and leisurely picked up the tea on the table to take a sip. He said plainly, also, who told you that this is just a competition? After this contract is signed, we must fulfill the terms written on it. There is no room for carelessness. What? Jiao Muzhen was shocked and couldn't react in time. He always thought that the negotiation and signing of the contract were just part of the competition. He didn't expect that it was all real. But, even so, Yu Lingchuan took a little too long, right? Although he had never negotiated a collaboration before, he had never heard of a 3-page contract taking half a day to read. Seeing that Jiao Muzhen was hesitating, Xiaochen looked at Yu Lingchuan impatiently and said, even if you really want to fulfill the terms, you have already read it so many times. You should understand it, right? Tell us your conditions. If we can negotiate, we will sign the contract. If not, then we will talk about it. What are you waiting for? Just now, he overheard that Jia Tuyao's side had already negotiated and got the highest interest contract. It was just that it was still early, so he didn't report it immediately. He was still sitting there chatting. On the other side, Jia Huoyan and a few collateral descendants were also progressing smoothly. It probably wouldn't take long for them to sign the contract. Little brother, as the saying goes, haste makes waste. After all, this contract involves the interests of both our families. I should at least take a look at it before I consider how to discuss with you, right? Yu Lingchuan still had the same unhurried attitude. He had been a steward for dozens of years and had cooperated with outsiders countless times. To him, dragging time and talking nonsense was just a common occurrence. But, just when Jiao Muzhen was about to speak, Yu Lingchuan suddenly raised his head and looked at Xiao Chen. With an amiable face he asked, "Oh yes, little brother, what's your name?" "My name is Xiao Chen." Xiao Chen replied coldly. He had long understood that this old thing obviously wanted to drag out the time and then find a random reason not to sign the contract. There was no problem with this contract. Moreover, Jiao Muzhen was willing to compromise. Normal people wouldn't reject it. Yu Lingchuan's attitude was obviously foreshadowing. Although Xiao Chen wanted to beat Yu Lingchuan up openly, this was the Jia family's territory. He couldn't be too arrogant. However, Xiao Chen wasn't in a hurry. He planned to quietly watch Yu Lingchuan act cool. Chapter 1026. Anyway, even if it dragged to the last moment, he had a way to make Yu Lingchuan sign what he should and what he shouldn't sign. Xiao Chen. That's a good name. I'm not afraid to say it as a joke, but this old man has read someone's fortune before and it's quite accurate. Xiao Chen, your name matches your looks. It looks like you'll definitely be successful in the future. But, coincidentally, this old man knows the daughter of an old friend. Why don't I? Yu Lingchuan seemed to be a chatterbox as he blabbered on and on. Jiao Muzhen glanced at Xiao Chen, his eyes filled with helplessness. It was as if he was apologetic that Jiao Muzhen had been dragged into this. Xiao Chen shook his head in consolation, indicating that there was no need to worry. He had a solution. Just as the two of them were thinking of a way to interrupt Yu Lingchuan's nonsense, the Jia family servants served lunch. It's time to eat. Yu Lingchuan finally stopped talking when he saw the food. He called out to Xiao Chen, Come Xiao Chen, don't just stand there like a fool. Sit down and let's eat together. As for the contract, we can talk about it after eating. The corner of Xiao Chen's mouth twitched. He couldn't be bothered to mock Jia Muzin anymore. He sat down with a cold face and picked up their bowls together with Jia Muzin. They started wolfing down the food on the table. The two of them were obviously thinking the same thing. Neither of them intended to leave any for Yu Lingxuan. However, to their surprise, Yu Lingxuan didn't seem to mind at all. Instead, he took the opportunity to lecture Xiao Chen and Jia Muzin about how they shouldn't eat too fast and that young people should chew slowly. He even pointed at the two of them with his chopsticks from time to time. Then he slowly ate his rice, ignoring the murderous gazes of the two people in front of him. After finishing the last grain of rice, Yu Lingxuan let out a long burp. He took out a box of toothpicks out of nowhere and took out a tobacco pipe. He picked his teeth and smoked as if there was no one else around him. He even looked like he was enjoying himself. Xiao Chen couldn't be bothered with him anymore and pretended not to see him. However, Jia Muzin almost exploded in anger. He was already pissed off by Yu Lingxuan's lecture. He didn't expect this old man to go even further. Tell me, what kind of teeth did you pick out? Wasn't it just a bowl of white rice? How could it stuff his teeth? This was 2F** King Unreal. Reporting Grandpa. I have completed the contract and obtained the best benefits for the Jia family. Please take a look. Xiao Chen was watching Yu Lingxuan put on an act with a faint smile on his face. Suddenly he heard Jia Tuyao shout from a short distance away. His voice was especially loud and he couldn't hide his pride. It was as if he was a victor showing off his spoils of war, as if he was afraid that the people present couldn't hear him. Well done. You can go and have a rest. Let's wait for the others to finish their matches, then we'll give a unified score. Jia Jingyan nodded in satisfaction. In fact, he also knew that there was something fishy going on. Jia Yuto must have given him a warning beforehand. However, he did not expose him. After all, the result was the most important. As long as it could bring benefits to the family, any method was worth a try. Jia Tuyao proudly stood up, cast a disdainful glance at the room where Jia Muzin and Jia Huiyan were, then shook his head and walked to the armchair nearby, crossed his legs, closed his eyes and rested, waiting for the announcement of the final result. Not long after, Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing also signed the contract. Although they didn't get the highest contract, they settled for the second best and successfully completed the negotiation in the second tier. They got 2 points. On the other side, Jia Huiyan didn't have it so smooth. Originally, with his eloquence, he got along well with Yu Lingxuan. However, when it came to the contract, Yu Lingxuan would inexplicably put forward some conditions that he couldn't accept. After arguing back and forth many times, they still couldn't reach an agreement. In desperation, Jia Huiyan could only choose to compromise with Yu Lingxuan and successfully sign the contract with the second tier. However, the points he could get dropped from the original 3 points to 2 points. His two subordinates were even more miserable. Whether it was Jia Kushu or Jia Shou, they were suppressed by Yu Lingxuan and didn't have any right to speak. In the end, they could only obediently sign the contract with the bottom line. They each got 1 point and handed over the contract resentfully. They sat on the side with a bitter face, waiting for the final punishment. Jia Huiyan, who was extremely depressed, knew clearly that Jia Yuto must have played a role in this. However, he didn't have any evidence, so he couldn't complain to his grandfather. In addition, looking at his grandfather's attitude yesterday, it seemed that he had tacitly agreed to the little tricks outside the competition. Even if he went to complain, the final result would probably be nothing. Jia Huiyan thought about it and could only choose to accept his fate. After a few hours, only Jia Muzin and Jia Renzhong had not completed the contract. Yu Lingxuan kept on talking about all sorts of things, but he didn't mention the contract. Xiao Chen took the opportunity to eavesdrop on Jia Renzhong's situation. The situation wasn't optimistic either. The person he was negotiating with was extremely unyielding, not willing to give in even a single step. The contract in Jia Renzhong's hands was originally the simplest. According to reason, as long as they had a good chat, it wouldn't be impossible for them to sign the contract with the highest standard. However, the other party immediately rejected this plan and even raised many crafty, unreasonable and unimaginable demands. No matter how stupid Jia Renzhong was, he already understood that he had definitely been tricked by Jia Shou and Jia Raijing. He could be considered to be quick-witted, immediately giving up on the idea of getting 3 points. He only continuously fought for the possibility of getting 2 points. However, looking at the current situation, the other party at most only wanted to sign the contract with the bottom line. Otherwise, they would give up on the cooperation. There wasn't even any room for discussion. Xiao Sen. Feeling that the time was right, Yu Lingchuan finally started to cut to the chase. I feel that this contract doesn't seem to be very beneficial to the Yu clan. After all, the Yu clan had spent a lot of manpower and resources to obtain these 3 secret martial arts manuals that you want. Isn't a mere 100 pieces of spiritual jades a little too little? Let me give you a suggestion. If you can increase it to 200 pieces of spiritual jades, I can bear with the pain and part with them on account of our long years of cooperation. 200 pieces of spiritual jades. Jianghu was stunned, his face was full of awkwardness. Uncle Yu, isn't this a little inappropriate? You see, our Jia clan only wants the handwritten copies of the secret martial arts manuals, not the original copies. Your price tag is too high. You can't say it like that. Think about it, these 200 pieces of spiritual jades can only allow 2 people to enter the revered realm. Moreover, the Yu clan will have to bear a huge risk. If these 2 people don't come out, wouldn't it be a huge loss? Yu Lingchuan shook his head and patiently guided him. Moreover, 200 pieces of spiritual jades to your Jia clan is just a drop in the ocean. You can just find a few workers to dig in the mines and you will have it. Why are you so calculative with me? Chapter 1027. But, $200 is too much. It's twice as much as I originally expected. Even if our Jia family has the heavenly jade mine, we can't dig that much in a day. Jianghu frowned. He begged to differ with Yu Lingchuan. One had to know that the spirit jades that he had asked Jia Hongyong for in the previous match had taken nearly a week for the miners to dig out the superior spirit jades and then carve them to remove the impurities before they could take shape. Although the heavenly jade mine had sufficient reserves of spiritual jades were also divided into several grades. High-grade spiritual jades were not commonly dug out. Most of them were secondary-grade spiritual jades and waste jades. It was precisely because the amount of high-grade spiritual jades was too little that the number of people entering the venerable realm was so limited. The spiritual jades that Jia Tuyao snatched from Jia Huoyin in yesterday's match belonged to the secondary-grade spiritual jades. Hence, they were much lighter than high-grade spiritual jades. How about this? Little Sen, I won't beat around the bush. If you can only take out 100 pieces of spiritual jades, then I'll give you a handwritten secret manual and some high-grade spiritual herbs. We're talking about a fair cooperation. I can't let you suffer a loss, right? Yu Lingchuan slammed the table and said generously. Jianghu was speechless. So many spiritual jades could only be exchanged for a handwritten secret manual. Furthermore, there weren't any heaven and earth treasures. It was only high-grade spiritual herbs. This Yu Lingchuan was too calculative. We are the dignified Jia family. Do we still lack those high-grade spiritual herbs? Uncle Yu, this is too little. How about? I don't want those high-grade spiritual herbs. How about you give me 2 secret manuals? Otherwise, 100 pieces of spiritual jades for a secret manual is not worth it. I won't be able to explain it to the old master. Jianghu thought for a while and decided to fight for it. He wanted to see if he could get Yu Lingchuan to agree. I also know that you want to score points in the match. That's why it's difficult for you. However, I also have my difficulties. Yu Lingchuan smiled faintly as though he had made an important decision. He rubbed his chin and said, in that case, let's understand each other. I will give you some natural treasures as compensation. I really cannot give you any more secret manuals. Otherwise, it will be hard for me to explain myself when I return. This. Jianghu hesitated for a moment. He reckoned that this would be the only result if he continued to negotiate. Gritting his teeth, he was about to agree when Xiao Chen suddenly said, Senior Yu, it's not that I want to say this, but for an illustrious venerable like you to haggle over every ounce with us juniors for such a small profit, isn't that a bit lacking in moral integrity? Yu Lingchuan laughed out loud when he heard that. He thought to himself, Xiao Chen, you little brat. Weren't you acting cool with me just now? Why did he admit defeat now? Why don't you keep pretending? At that time, if I'm not happy, I won't even sign the contract. Let's see how you're going to report back then. However, after being flattered by Xiao Chen, Yu Lingchuan was still very happy. He stroked his beard and said heartily, Nephew Xiao Chen, you're flattering me. I'm only a martial king at the full circle. How could I have the honor of becoming a marshal honored? Xiao Chen's eyes flashed. He pretended to be surprised and asked, That's impossible, right? Senior Yu, you look so dignified with white hair and a youthful complexion. How could you only be a martial king? Don't be so humble. You can't say that. Yu Lingchuan was very happy and his nagging temper flared up again. You should know that the honorable realm is not a place that anyone can enter just because they want to. Aside from providing spiritual jades, the younger the person is, the higher the chance of success. For an old man like me, I don't have such extravagant hopes. You youngsters, on the other hand, have plenty of opportunities. So you're really a martial king at the full circle. That makes things much easier. Xiaochen laughed coldly. He turned around and ordered the Jia family's servants to bring him a piece of white paper. He then wrote a few lines on the paper. What do you mean? Yu Lingchuan was slightly stunned as he looked at Xiaochen suspiciously. After Xiaochen finished writing, he threw the white paper in front of Yu Lingchuan and laughed coldly. This is an additional contract. Aside from signing the highest contract with Jia Muzin, you must also agree to all the conditions in the additional contract. Yu Lingchuan could not understand these words. He subconsciously picked up the additional contract and took a look. Suddenly he burst into laughter. I think you're crazy. It's written here. Not only will the Yu family provide 5 handwritten martial arts manuals, they will also need to provide the Jia family with 20 treasures at the price of 50 spiritual jades. Other than that, the Yu family will also need to provide 10 workers to the Jia family to help them mine. All the earnings from the mines will belong to the Jia family. Xiaochen, are you serious? Are you sure you didn't write the contract backwards? Yu Lingchuan held back his laughter and pretended to be serious as he read out the additional contract. Of course it's true. I didn't write it backwards either. Xiaochen was unmoved as he replied indifferently. Although Jia Muzin was a little surprised, he had absolute trust in Xiaochen. Hence, he did not make a sound and watched quietly from the side. Nonsense. This is simply ridiculous. Xiaochen, there must be something wrong with your brain. You should go see a doctor. Yu Lingchuan burst into laughter again. He laughed so hard that he could not catch his breath. He felt that Xiaochen was a complete lunatic. He did not take his conditions seriously at all. I think you're the one with a punctured brain. Can't you tell that I'm not discussing with you but ordering you? Xiaochen crossed his arms and looked down at Yu Lingchuan, enunciating each and every word clearly. What? You dare to threaten me? If I don't sign, can you still use force? Yu Lingchuan stared at Xiaochen and retorted. Of course not. Old you really like to joke. This is a fair competition. How can I use force? Xiaochen looked at him indifferently. Furthermore, you are an old cabbage. Even if I use force, there is no need for me to use it on you. You? Yu Lingchuan's smile disappeared. His face was filled with anger. He was very unhappy with Xiaochen's sarcasm. He waved his hand and said, All right, stop provoking me. How can I sign this kind of contract? If I want to sign it, I am an idiot. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Xiaochen stared at him impatiently. He slammed the table and roared, Sign. Just as he said that, Yu Lingchuan's body suddenly trembled. He stood there blankly for a while. Then he picked up the pen with a blank look in his eyes. He slowly bent down and signed his name on the 2 contracts with the highest benefits and the supplementary agreement. The contract originally had Jia Muzin's name on it. Now that Yu Lingchuan signed, it meant that both parties had signed the contract. The contract was established. Jia Muzin was stunned. He thought to himself that this old fellow was quite humorous. No wonder he said so many useless things. Eating rice and not being able to stuff one's teeth. It was to prove that there was something wrong with his IQ. He was indeed an idiot. Chapter 1028. After signing his name and putting down his pen, Yu Lingchuan picked up the contract. Without waiting for Jia Muzin to react, he walked towards Jia Jinyan's direction. Just as Jia Muzin was about to call out to him, he was suddenly pulled by Xiaochen. When he turned around, he saw Xiaochen giving him a look. He immediately understood that Xiaochen must have helped him secretly. He could not help but nod at him gratefully. Xiaochen smiled slightly and turned to chase after Yu Lingchuan. Jia Muzin hurriedly followed behind him and excitedly went to report to Jia Jinyan. Yo, isn't this steward you? Why did you personally send the contract over? These small errands, they can just let the younger generation do it for them. Jia Jinyan was a little surprised when he saw the figure walking over. Did this Yu Lingchuan eat the wrong medicine? Normally he had always been tyrannical in the Yu clan. Other than the Yu clan master, he did not give face to anyone. He was also very strong when it came to external cooperation. He was especially good at dragging. He could even drag people to madness. Among the Jia clan's people, other than Jia Yuto, Yu Lingchuan did not even look at them. But today he actually helped Jia Muzin to send the contract over. This really made Jia Jinyan's eyes pop out. Yu Lingchuan walked to the table and gave a simple nod before placing the contract on the table. Jia Jinyan lowered his head to take a look and saw that it was the highest standard contract. He happily praised, "Musen, not bad. This contract was completed beautifully." This actually. Facing Jia Jinyan's praise, Jia Musen was a little hesitant. He had won this competition a little mysteriously, he did not know whether he should accept it or not. "Actually, Clan Master, you still haven't noticed," Xiaoqin interrupted and pointed to the additional contract at the back. He smiled and said, "Look, Senior, you not only signed the highest standard contract with Jia Musen, he also agreed to some additional contracts. Please take a look." Additional contracts? Jia Jinyan was startled. He lowered his head and looked at the contract carefully. Only then did he realize that behind the original contract, there was an additional contract. On it were Jia Musen and Yu Lingchuan's names. After reading through the details of the contract, Jia Jinyan sucked in a breath of cold air. His face was first filled with disbelief before it turned into ecstasy. He put down the contract and shook Yu Lingchuan's hand, thanking him from the bottom of his heart. "Manager Yu, you're too kind. I didn't expect you to agree to these additional conditions." "Ah?" Yu Lingchuan was slightly startled as he recovered his wits. His eyes regained their clarity as he looked at Jia Jinyan hesitantly. "What happened just now? Why is it that my brain seems to be out of control and I sign all the contracts as soon as I pick up the pen?" In the past, Caretaker Yu's attitude towards our Jia family was unclear. Now it seems like it was all a test. "Look at you, if you have any misgivings just say it frankly." Jia Jinyan patted Yu Lingchuan's shoulder heavily. His smile was like a blossoming flower. "However, through this contract, I can already feel the Yu clan's sincerity in cooperating with us. We will definitely consider the long-term cooperation with the Yu clan. Don't worry, since I am still the clan master, I will definitely do what I say. I will definitely not go back on my words. Otherwise, I will not have a good ending." That. Yu Lingchuan's face scrunched up. He didn't know whether to laugh or cry. Jia Jinyan had already said so much. Could it be that he had to go back on his words and become the person who would not have a good ending? Actually, it's nothing much. Our three great clans should help each other." Yu Lingchuan took a deep breath and finally squeezed out a sentence from his throat with difficulty. "Ah, Caretaker Yu is really straightforward." Jia Jinyan laughed and said seriously, "When the competition ends, don't be in a hurry to leave. I will treat you to a few drinks tonight. Firstly, it is to thank you for your recognition of Jia Musen. Secondly, it is for the Jia and Yu clan to have a better cooperation in the future. I hope that Caretaker Yu will do me the honor. There will be many opportunities for us to interact in the future." As long as he thought about the resources that the Yu clan would provide the Jia clan every year, Jia Jinyan felt as if he had drunk a glass of ice water on a hot day. "Oh, all right." Yu Lingchuan didn't know what to say. He could only nod his head and return to his seat with a puzzled look on his face. After sitting down in a daze, Yu Lingchuan tried his best to recall what had happened. However, he could only remember Xiaoqin handing him a contract. After that, he was in a daze. Only after Jia Jinyan shook his hand and spoke to him did he realize what had happened. "That's not right. What is going on? Could it be that I have a split personality?" Yu Lingchuan frowned and thought hard. On the other side, Jia Jinyan looked at Jia Musen with admiration. He patted his shoulder and said, "Musen, you did well. Go and rest first. After the competition ends, I will announce the results." "And thank you, grandfather." At this point, the contract was considered settled. Jia Musen smiled, turned around and walked to his resting place. However, he felt conflicted. On one hand, he felt that Jia Jinyan, as his grandfather, was a bit snobbish. In the past, when he wasn't of much help to the clan, Jia Jinyan didn't care about him at all. Now that he had just improved a little, Jia Jinyan's attitude changed. It really made him feel bitterly disappointed. However, on the other hand, from the perspective of a rational clan head, Jia Jinyan's attitude was understandable. After all, the clan head prioritized the clan's benefits and looked at the big picture. If he was too emotional, how could the Jia clan become one of the top 3 clans in the martial arts world? It would be difficult for them to even survive. They might have already been swallowed up by other clans. Although he was conflicted, Jia Musen had a strong point, which was that he was open-minded and optimistic. The conflicting emotions only existed for a while before disappearing like smoke. Jia Musen then thought of the additional contract, that was full of suspicious points. Seeing that there was no one nearby, Jia Musen asked doubtfully, "Xiaoqin, what kind of sorcery did you use just now? You actually made that old guy take the initiative to sign the contract. I thought that I would only get 1 point this time. This is a secret. I can't tell you for the time being. Xiao Qin smiled mysteriously. Moreover, I already said that I would help you. How could I just watch you sign the lowest contract and ignore it? In fact, the special ability of a cultivator was quite heaven-defying for ordinary cultivators. Moreover, it wasn't easy to explain. Therefore, Xiao Qin didn't intend to say it and chose to deliberately mystify things. Forget it if you don't want to say it. Anyway, I don't want to know. Isn't there a line in many movies, knowing too much is not good for you? Only a dead man can keep a secret. Jianghu shrugged his shoulders and said indifferently. Chapter 1029. Jianghu was already used to Xiao Qian's endless abilities. Since Xiao Qin didn't want to say it, he wouldn't force him. This was the basic trust he had for a good friend. You don't have to say anything else. In short, I can only promise you that I will use 100 spiritual jades to exchange for 5 kinds of natural treasures. There's no need to talk about anything else. I'll go to the bathroom first. As the two were chatting, a low voice suddenly came from the cubicle beside them. The sound of a chair being dragged could be heard. The two of them turned their heads and saw a middle-aged man walking out from behind the screen where Jia Renzhong was seated. He accidentally bumped into Jianghu's shoulder. Then, he glanced at Jianghu and left as if nothing had happened without apologizing. Jianghu didn't care too much about it. After the man left, he peeked through the screen and saw Jia Renzhong sitting there in a daze. His expression was somewhat dejected. It seemed that the negotiation wasn't going well. Jianghu had also heard the middle-aged man's words. He felt that this guy's train of thought was a little strange. Jianghu was quite familiar with the cooperation method of exchanging spiritual jades for natural treasures. In the market, 100 spiritual jades could be exchanged for 10 kinds of top-grade natural treasures. Usually, people would beg the Jia family to exchange for them. After all, high-grade spiritual jades were very rare and most of them were in the Jia family. Although there weren't many top-grade natural treasures in stock, there was no comparison between the two. The reason was that the difference in value between the two was quite large. Although they were both consumables compared to natural treasures, most sects and families were willing to choose high-grade spiritual jades. After all, 100 spiritual jades could be exchanged for a spot to enter the venerable secret realm. This was something that couldn't be exchanged for any amount of natural treasures. Although there was a chance of failure in upgrading, the more spots there were, the higher the chance of success, right? No matter which sect or family it was, they all hoped to have one more venerable under them. The more venerables a family had, the more authority they had. Therefore, the more spiritual jades they had, the better. However, from the tone of the middle-aged man just now, he didn't seem to care about spiritual jades at all. This was the key point that Jianghu was puzzled about. Although Jianghu could probably guess that there was something fishy going on, he felt that it had nothing to do with him, so he didn't plan on getting involved. Seeing that Jia Renzhong was the only one left and had yet to finish, a few of the branch family members gathered over. Jia Keqiu was the first to speak. Renzhong, why are you taking so long? Don't tell me you still haven't come to an agreement? They couldn't even settle such a simple contract. What a waste of resources. If it were me, I would have signed the highest contract already. Exactly. I say, what's wrong with you? Don't tell me I can't even exchange for 10 heavenly treasures? The competition's deadline is almost here. Look, everyone has already finished. You're the only one left. If you still can't get it, it will be very embarrassing. Jia Shuluo said with a cheap smile. TSK. Don't make wild guesses. Perhaps the masses still have trump cards that they haven't used yet. Jia Shirlei put on a fake smile and said, just like yesterday when we were digging for the spiritual jades, none of us got any points. Only he got lucky and got 1 point with 4 spiritual jades. He won because of luck. Don't be jealous. Sai Renzhong. This contract of yours is so simple. If it can't be signed with the highest contract, then it will really disappoint the old family head and us brothers. You're so useless. Just give up on this competition. Using 100 spiritual jades to actually not be able to exchange for 10 heavenly treasures, our Jia family can't afford to lose this face. Jia Raijing patted Jia Renzhong's shoulder and said with a sneer. I won't give up. I must get this contract done. Jia Renzhong gripped the pen in his hand tightly. Although he felt very angry at the few people's ridicule, he still gritted his teeth and persevered. Persevering was persevering. Jia Renzhong was indeed a little puzzled in his heart. Why were spiritual jades so worthless in his hands? Other people could use this to exchange for more benefits, but he could only exchange for a mere 5 heavenly treasures. What the hell was going on? Jia Renzhong didn't know that before the competition started, Jia Yuto had already secretly stuffed a bag of spiritual jades into the middle-aged man's hands, so that he could only sign the contract with the lowest standard no matter what. That person accepted the spiritual jades and was naturally willing to help. Moreover, Jia Yuto had specially instructed him that after the matter was settled, there would be other rewards. Jia Yuto was originally their family's biggest partner. He was equivalent to a god of wealth. Of course, he wouldn't be stupid enough to not give the other party face. I really don't know where you get the courage from. Do you still think that you can continue to be so lucky? Jia Rijing ridiculed unscrupulously. The few collateral descendants couldn't help but burst into laughter. Their laughter was full of mockery. Everyone laughed a few times. Seeing that the middle-aged man had returned, Jia Kechu said to the others with an evil smile, "Let's go. Let's not hinder Jia Renzhong here. Maybe he still has a special, ultimate move. Later on he will use it and easily win this competition." The other collateral descendants also heard the ambiguity in Jia Rijing's words. They revealed a broken chrysanthemum, smile and winked at Jia Renzhong. Then they all exited the compartment. "Why are you still standing there in a daze? It's time for you to show off. Why don't you hurry up and help?" Seeing that the few silly collateral descendants had left, Xiao Chen hurriedly pushed Jia Muzhen, hinting him to go and help Jia Renzhong. Who am I going to help?" Jia Muzhen was really in a daze. Hearing Xiao Chen's words, he was stunned. He didn't understand Xiao Chen's intention and was still standing there in confusion. "Why can't your blockhead understand?" Xiao Chen said with an exasperated expression. "This person is Jia Hongyong's nephew. Naturally, you will take him as your disciple. If you help him at the critical moment when he successfully becomes an elder, there will be less resistance for you to become the family head in the future, right? Otherwise you will be the family head alone. The other elders will be Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao's fools. How will you win?" "But, it's useless for me to go." Jia Muzhen finally understood. His stunned expression turned into helplessness. "Even if I want to help, I don't have the ability. How can that middle-aged man listen to me? If it weren't for you, I'm afraid I would only be able to get 1 point. Jia Muzhen also knew that he was alone. Although he had Xiao Chen's help, he couldn't help him for a lifetime. He had to take in a few trusted people. But then again, even if he wanted to cultivate trusted people, he felt that he didn't have the strength. The main reason was that there weren't many people in the Jia family who could listen to him. Previously, after he left, his sense of existence was even lower. "What are you afraid of? Didn't you just say that you have me, the external help? You just have to go there and show off." Xiao Chen waved his hand and said lightly. Chapter 1030. Jia Muzhen scratched his head and said with a troubled expression, I've never done something like acting cool in my entire life. I'm usually quite low-key. What if I don't act well? Isn't it just acting cool? What's so difficult about it? In short, do it as high and mighty as you can. Have you read those web novels before? Learn from the protagonists in those books. They are all martial arts masters. As long as you show off your domineering aura, the other party will be scared to the point of peeing. Xiao Chen advised. Jia Muzhen recalled for a long time, but he still couldn't figure out how to do this domineering aura. With a distressed expression, he was about to ask Xiao Chen again when he was suddenly pushed from behind, directly into Jia Renzhong's compartment. Go ahead, act however you like. I'll help you clean up the mess. Don't worry about anything else. Xiao Chen was too lazy to wait for Jia Muzhen to understand, so he simply pushed him in. By the time he figured it out, Jia Renzhong's contract might have already been signed, and it would be too late. Jia Muzhen was shocked. He originally wanted to decline, but he found that he was already standing in the compartment. Jia Renzhong and the middle-aged man turned their heads to look at him with a puzzled expression. Jia Muzhen squeezed out a kind smile. Just as he was thinking about what to say, the middle-aged man opposite him spoke first. Who are you? What are you doing here? If there's nothing else, quickly leave. Don't hinder us from discussing serious matters. The middle-aged man looked Jia Muzhen up and down. When he saw Jia Muzhen's loser face, he thought that Jia Muzhen was just a friend of Jia Renzhong's, so he waved his hand impolitely to dismiss him. Young Master Muzhen, why are you here? Jia Renzhong was also a little surprised. He and Jia Muzhen usually didn't interact much, so he didn't understand why Jia Muzhen suddenly came here. Could it be that he was like Jia Inu and the others, deliberately coming over to mock him? Renjong, how's the discussion going? Do you need me to help you coordinate? Since he was already here, Jia Muzin could only bite the bullet and continue pretending. He ignored the middle-aged man and turned to Jia Renjong with a faint smile. There shouldn't be a problem. Jia Renjong was obviously not confident enough. Although he did not know what Jia Muzin wanted to do, he still pointed at the middle-aged man and said, "Let me introduce you. This is Elder Zhou of the Mysterious Traces sect. This is the Jia family's direct descendant, Jia Muzin. Young Master Muzin, we are almost done negotiating the contract. If you have something to do, why don't you wait until it's over? Don't waste my time." Before Jia Renjong could finish, Elder Zhou cut him off impatiently. "You better think about it carefully. Do you want to agree to my terms? It's getting dark and I'm still waiting for dinner. If you feel that the conditions are not suitable, then we might as well cancel the contract." Jia Renjong's face flushed red. Just as he was about to argue, Jia Muzin lightly pressed on his shoulder, signaling him not to be in a hurry to reply. Jia Muzin, on the other hand, sat down and recalled how Xiaoqin usually pretended to be cool. Only then did he cross his legs and say, "Elder Zhou, right? I heard everything you said just now. You mean that you want to use 5 heaven and earth treasures to exchange for 100 pieces of high-grade spiritual jade from the Jia family? May I ask if you slept well last night?" "I slept very well." Jia Muzin's question changed so quickly that Elder Zhou could not react for a moment and answered subconsciously. "Is that so? I think you didn't sleep very well. You're still daydreaming now." Jia Muzin sneered and mocked. "Who the hell do you think you are? How dare you talk back to me?" Only then did Elder Zhou react. He was instantly enraged and slammed the table. He glared and scolded, "If it wasn't for the Jia family's patriarch, I would have slapped you to death. Don't think that you're invincible just because you're a direct descendant. If you have nothing better to do, go away and stop messing around here." "Oh, you've got some guts. Haven't you heard of me, Jia Muzin, young Master Jia? Then why are you still negotiating the contract?" Jia Muzin had already gotten the hang of it. He retorted without showing any signs of weakness. "How dare a trashy sect like the Mysterious Traces sect negotiate terms with the Jia family, one of the 3 major families? Let me tell you, if you don't sign the contract today, I'll bring my men and raze the Mysterious Traces sect to the ground tomorrow." Jia Renjong was sweating profusely. Was this Jia Muzin here to help him or to cause trouble? He had tried to negotiate with Jia Muzin in a friendly manner, but Jia Muzin had rejected him. Now Jia Muzin had come to yell at him. Wasn't this pushing him into a pit of fire? "You." Elder Zhou was so angry that his face turned purple. He pushed the table away and stood up. He glared at Jia Muzin and prepared to attack. "Elder Zhou, please calm down. Please don't attack. Let's talk this through." Jia Renjong panicked. He hurriedly pounced forward, trying to stop Elder Zhou from making a move. Although Jia Muzin did not have much confidence, he remembered that he had Xiaoqin backing him up. He persisted and sneered. "Let go of him. I want to see if he dares to attack me." "Young Master Muzin, please don't say any more. No matter which side is injured, I won't be able to explain myself." Jia Renjong was on the verge of tears. He wanted to stop Jia Muzin's provocation, but he also wanted to stop Elder Zhou from making a move. He did not know what to do. In the face of imminent peril, he decided to grab hold of Elder Zhou and protect Jia Muzin. However, just as his hand was about to grab hold of Elder Zhou's sleeve, he suddenly felt Elder Zhou's body tremble. Elder Zhou's body sank, and the sleeve he had just grabbed was instantly released. Jia Renjong thought that Elder Zhou had fallen for no reason. He was shocked. When he looked closely, he realized that Elder Zhou was kneeling on the ground. "Young Master Muzin, you are a magnanimous person. Let's talk this out. Why do you have to resort to violence and harm our friendship?" Elder Zhou, who was kneeling on the ground, said respectfully to Jia Muzin. Jia Muzin was startled. He immediately realized that it was Xiaoqian's doing. He calmed himself down and continued speaking in a deep voice. "Don't talk to me about these useless things. Just say it. Are you going to sign the contract or not?" "I'll sign it. Right now. Right now. I'll sign it right now." Elder Zhou nodded his head in a flattering manner. He knelt there and searched for a pen on the table. Elder Zhou? This sudden turn of events caused Jia Renjong to be dumbfounded. He thought that Elder Zhou was being sarcastic, so he called out tentatively. "Renjong, look at yourself. The future young master is speaking up for you. Why are you still being so courteous with me? I was too rude before. I'm sorry. Elder Zhou smiled so widely that his eyebrows could not be seen. He didn't care about anything else. He knelt on the ground and quickly signed his name on the contract. What was going on? Jia Renzhong was completely dumbfounded. How was Jia Muzhen so awesome? The contract that he couldn't sign after negotiating for half a day was settled with just a few words from him. Chapter 1031. After Jia Renzhong's contract was handed in, the competition ended. Jia Jinyan carefully looked at all the contracts in his hand, and then filled in the scores of each person on the blank form. However, when he wrote down Jia Muzhen's score, he lowered his head and pondered for a while, then added a few strokes at the end and finally nodded with satisfaction. Oh, okay. Jia Renzhong returned to his senses and looked down at the signed contract in his hand. The complex emotions in his heart were indescribable. Shock, ecstasy, excitement, gratitude, and so on. However, he also knew that this was not the time to thank Jia Muzhen. He nodded his head, tightly grasped the contract, and hurriedly ran in the direction of Jia Jinyan. The other collateral descendants were also very unwilling to give up. They all stared at Jia Renzhong, wishing that they could directly pounce on him and bite him to death. Is everyone here? Then let me first announce the scores of your contracts. Seeing that everyone was here, Jia Jinyan glanced at the audience and said in a deep voice, first, the direct descendants. Jia Huoyan gets 2 points, Jia Tuyao gets 3 points, Jia Muzhen gets 3 points. Next, the collateral descendants. Jia Quinyu gets 1 point, Jia Sholu gets 1 point, Jia Shirlei gets 2 points, Jia Raijing gets 2 points, Jia Renzhong gets 3 points. Tiao, do you think that those who have made contributions to the family should not receive extra rewards? Jia Jinyan frowned and his face darkened. Obviously he was a little angry. All the contestants, gather here. Wait for the family head to announce the results of the competition. Uncle Gue, who was standing beside Jia Jinyan, received the signal from the family head and shouted to everyone loudly. This. Jia Tuyao keenly felt his grandfather's anger. Looking at the additional contract on the table, he rolled his eyes and quibbled, Grandpa, I didn't mean that. It's just that when you made the rules this morning, you didn't say that additional contracts could get extra points. Otherwise, if I had known it in advance, I would have signed the same contract, and the conditions would definitely be much better than Jia Muzhen's. Damn, what kind of dog shit luck does Jia Muzhen have? We have suppressed him so much, but he can still get 3 points. Jia Huoyan fiercely glared at Jia Muzhen and clenched his fist. His expression was one of anger. He never expected that he, the dignified young master of the Jia clan, would actually lose 2 matches in a row. This was simply a great humiliation. A few collateral disciples who were sitting not far away and waiting to watch a good show were also stunned when they saw this scene. They all knew that Jia Yuto had secretly bribed Elder Zhou. That was why they deliberately went to Jia Renzhong's place to humiliate him, waiting to see him make a fool of himself. Seeing this, Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing couldn't help but glance at each other, then simultaneously stood up, ran to Jia Tuyao and complained, Young Master Tuyao, Zhou sold us out. Jia Renzhong will definitely get 3 points now. What should we do? In addition, Jia Muzhen signed a long-term contract with the clan for a small price of 50 pieces of spirit jades. While speaking, Jia Jinyan took out the additional contract, put it on the table and showed it in front of everyone. The value of this contract is quite high. Therefore, I have decided, on the basis of the original 3 points, I will give Jia Muzhen an additional contribution point. Although Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao's voices were very low, Jia Jinyan still heard them clearly. He indifferently glanced at the two of them, not caring about their dissatisfied attitude. Instead, he cleared his throat and was about to announce another decision. He couldn't understand why Jia Muzhen could get the highest contract. Elder Zhou was unreliable, so be it. Why did even you Lingchuan fail? Are you all F***king kidding me? He was already extremely unhappy with the fact that he and Jia Muzhen had jointly obtained 3 points in this round. Now, an additional contract had been inexplicably created, giving Jia Muzhen an extra point for no reason. How could he agree to it? If Jia Tuyao didn't put the clan's interests first and only cared about the difference in the match, then Jia Jinyan felt that he didn't have the qualifications to be the clan leader. Because he didn't have the corresponding magnanimity. Turning around, he found that it was Jia Qingqiu and Jia Raijing who were staring at him. Instantly he felt ashamed and didn't know how to explain. How could he dare to wait for the meal? Hurriedly, he stood up and ran out of the Jia family's courtyard in a panic. What the F***ck? Jia Muzhen got 3 points? How is this possible? Jia Tuyao blurted out in disbelief. What happened? What did I do just now? After handing over the contract, Elder Zhou also broke free from Xiao Chen's control. He woke up in a daze, his expression blank. When he recalled what he had done earlier, he could not help but feel confused. Forget it. I knew that guy was unreliable. Jia Tuyao waved his hand gloomily. It's okay. Now I got 3 points for sure. The other people's points are definitely not as high as mine. As long as I win the next round against Jia Muzin, I will definitely take over the position of the clan leader. At that time I will promote you guys to the position. However, unexpectedly after a quarrel, Elder Zhou suddenly knelt down and signed the contract. What kind of trick is he playing? Did he just casually sign his name to fool Jia Renzhong? I object. As soon as Jia Jinyan finished his words, Jia Tuyao immediately jumped up and fiercely objected, disregarding his respect for the clan leader. However, when they turned around and saw the appreciative look in Jia Jinyan's eyes when Jia Renzhong handed over the contract, they knew that things were not as they had imagined. This guy surnamed Zhou had really sold them out. Regarding Elder Zhou's betrayal, Jia Tuyao didn't care too much. He thought that he had already won. When he became the clan leader, he would have the final say on the distribution of power, wouldn't he? It didn't matter who the elder was. This. Elder Zhou blinked his eyes. Before he could figure out what was going on, he suddenly felt that several resentful eyes were staring at him from not far away, as if there were thorns on his back. And it was signed according to the highest contract. Could it be that this was the real strength of Jia Muzin, who had always been low-key? Elder Zhou, your legs are numb, right? You've worked hard. There's nothing for you to do here. Go find a place to rest. Later, when the meal is ready, someone will inform you. Jia Muzin coldly glanced at Elder Zhou and didn't want to talk to him anymore. He turned around and went with Xiao Qin to wait for the result of the match. That's more like it. What were you doing earlier? Why did you make me unhappy and get scolded before you signed the contract? What a cheap wretch. Jia Muzin snorted, looked at the contract, and after confirming that there were no mistakes, he handed it to Jia Renzhong and said, It's done. Hurry up and hand over the contract. If you delay any longer, the match will be over. Before long, all the direct descendants and collateral descendants gathered in front of the stage where Jia Jinyan was standing. Chapter 1032. Yeah. I also think that Jia Muzin is just taking advantage of the situation. If I had known that this kind of additional contract could add points, I would have signed 3 or 5 of them, let alone 1. Jia Huoyin muttered unhappily. Although he didn't want to speak for Jia Tuyao, as the saying went, the enemy of my enemy is my friend. As long as he could make Jia Muzin suffer a loss, there was no harm in cooperating with him for the time being. Jia Jinyan stared blankly for a moment. He felt that what the two of them said made sense, and a look of hesitation appeared on his face. It was true that he had not taken the rules into consideration. If he had made the rules more detailed, he would not have caused so much trouble. Jia Muzin was immediately filled with anger when he heard the two people objecting to him. He clenched his fists tightly, but before Jia Jinyan said anything, he didn't dare to say anything. He could only remain silent with a livid face. You two idiots. Did you grow up imitating Big Wolf? Why are you so retarded? Xiao Qin rolled his eyes at them and said impatiently, Don't you know that you have to be flexible when doing business? Do you think that everything has to be explained clearly in advance and then you know how to carry it out? Then what's the use of you? Even an underground sweeper knows how to do it. Looking at Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao's dirty faces, Xiao Qin was angry. If it weren't for the fact that he had to consider Jia Muzin's feelings in the Jia family's territory, he would have already rushed over and beaten them up. This is the Jia family's business. Since when did an outsider like you have the right to butt in? Get out of my sight. Jia Tuyao was scolded for no reason. He was so angry that his lungs were about to explode. He didn't want to pretend to be a good person anymore, and directly shouted at Xiao Qin. That's right. You're just a foreign aide. You have no right to criticize the Jia family. I just gave you some face and you really think you're somebody? Jia Huoyin echoed. Oh, according to your stupid logic, next time I see you killed by a car on the street, I don't need to call the Jia family to collect your bodies, right? Xiao Qin crossed his arms in front of his chest, stared at Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao as if they were idiots and sneered coldly. F***ck, you're courting death. Jia Tuyao's hair stood on end. He immediately waved his hand towards Bai Songyan and yelled furiously, Songyan, kill this suicidal thing right now. I will take responsibility for all the consequences. Jia Huoyin was similarly furious. He also gave Tang Yuanxing a look, indicating that he should rush over and cooperate with Bai Songyan to kill Xiao Chen. All of you stop. Just as Bai Songyan and Tang Yuanxing moved, Jia Jinyan slammed the table heavily and shouted. He instantly displayed the strength of a great perfection martial honor. His strong martial chi formed a pressure that surged toward the crowd. Feeling the immense pressure, Bai Songyan and Tang Yuanxing hurriedly stopped in their tracks. Their backs were drenched in cold sweat as they secretly exclaimed in their hearts, "That was close." Fortunately, he did not act rashly. Otherwise, he would have been severely injured by the old master and might even have died under his palm. Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao were also startled. Their arrogance was instantly suppressed. All these years they had never seen their grandpa so angry. The last time he was so angry was almost 10 years ago. On the other hand, Xiao Chen did not move at all. His expression was very calm. Although the pressure released by Jia Jinyan also made it hard for him to breathe, Xiao Chen did not show any fear. He still stood there calmly, for he did not want to be looked down upon. Jia Jinyan looked at Xiao Chen coldly. He was slightly surprised in his heart. He slowly retracted the martial chi that he was releasing and warned him word by word. "Xiao Chen, seeing that you are a junior and the external help that Jia Muzhen invited, I won't bicker with you. However, I still hope that you will behave yourself and do not insult the Jia family again. Otherwise, no matter what kind of background you have, I will not show you any mercy." Xiao Chen indifferently shrugged, indicating that he had heard it. He did not intend to argue with Jia Jinyan. Firstly, he did not want to get Jia Muzhen involved. Secondly, he did not want to provoke Jia Jinyan. If Jia Jinyan started a fight with him, he would have to flee for his life again. Moreover, this time he would have to run with 4 girls. It would definitely be very troublesome. Jia Muzhen's expression was very serious, while Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyin were very happy. Seeing Xiao Chen being humiliated, they were happier than anyone else. However, before they could be happy for long, Jia Jinyan turned around, glared at them and scolded, "Both of you stop. During the family competition, everyone is staring at our Jia family. Do you really want to make a fool of yourself in front of everyone? The Jia family cannot afford to lose face like this." Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyin's happy expression immediately froze on their faces. The corners of their mouths twitched stiffly, and they awkwardly lowered their heads. Seeing that both of them were speechless, Jia Jinyan no longer scolded them. Instead, he turned to the crowd and said loudly, "I declare that in this competition Jia Tuyao and Jia Muzhen, the direct descendants, will each get 3 points for the head of the family, and the collateral descendants Jia Renzhong will get 3 points for the elders. As for the rest of the people, they will each get 2 points or 1 point according to the standard of the contract. Does anyone else have any objection?" After witnessing Jia Jinyan's strength, even those who had objections shut their mouths sensibly at this time. Seeing that no one had any objection, Jia Jinyan stood up and said in a deep voice, "The third competition will start at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning in the Jia family's martial arts hall. Alright, go back and prepare." After saying that, Jia Jinyan put away the contract on the table, gave Xiao Chen a meaningful glance, and then left the parlor with his trusted subordinates. Humph! Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao snorted coldly, glared at Xiao Chen and Jia Muzhen, then left with their subordinates and collateral descendants. Xiao Chen didn't care about their hostility at all. When he was about to leave with Jia Muzhen, he suddenly heard Elder Heaven Ancestor's words in his mind, "Humph, that Jia kid is really good at pretending." Obviously, his internal injuries haven't healed yet, but he still dared to forcibly release his warrior chi. Is he tired of living? What? Elder Heaven Ancestor, who did you say was injured? Xiao Chen was confused. Is that kid Jia Jinyan? Can't you see it? Elder Heaven Ancestor asked back. Really? Xiao Chen was stunned. After thinking for a while, he really couldn't find any clues. I can't see it. I felt that he was quite good just now, there was nothing wrong with him. That's why I say that juniors like you are inexperienced. If he wasn't injured, with his martial honored realm strength, the pressure that he released would have already pressed all of you to the ground. Elder Heaven Ancestor sighed and analyzed methodically. Just now, I felt a faint fluctuation in his warrior chi. I think it's because his old injuries haven't healed yet, so he can't release his full strength. Chapter 1033. Maybe he just wanted to save everyone some face so he didn't use his full strength? After all, a few of his grandsons were here and there were also reinforcements from other clans. If he used too much strength, everyone would kneel on the ground like dumplings. Wouldn't that be inappropriate in front of everyone? Xiaoqun thought of another reason. Sai, uncultured people are really scary. Let me explain to you. The elder heaven ancestor patiently explained, when you're extremely angry and about to explode, do you feel like your mind is blank? Yes, there's a saying that goes, anger has gone to the head. Isn't that what it means? But what does this have to do with injuries? Xiaoqun was like a humble student asking for advice. You might not know this, but when humans are angry, not only will their minds be blank, the martial qi in their body will also be completely out of control for a few seconds. It's the same for cultivators and cultivators alike. The elder heaven ancestor explained at length, if he wasn't injured, forget about making you kneel, he could even make you lie on the ground. The fact that you were able to hold on just now means that his current full strength is only at that level. It's obvious that his martial qi has been restricted by his internal injuries. The full circle martial honorable that he is displaying is just an empty shell. I see. I was wondering why I was completely fine just now. I thought that my body's resistance had increased after becoming a martial honorable. Xiaoqun finally understood and nodded his head. He then asked, then is his internal injury serious? He wouldn't die before the competition is over, would he? If that's the case, I can just use force to make Jianghu the clan leader, right? You're dreaming. I think he'll be completely healed in a year or two. The elder heaven ancestor replied casually. He then remembered something else and instructed, oh right, think of a way to get more spiritual jades. The yuan qi in your body is not enough to break through to the original infant stage. You need spiritual jades to level up. Holy shit, why didn't you say so earlier? Otherwise, I could have directly asked Jia Hongyong for them in the Tianyu mine that day. Xiaoqun immediately complained to the heavens. Where could he find spiritual jades in such a short time? He couldn't possibly steal from the Jia family's warehouse, could he? It would be terrible if he was discovered. You think I don't want to say it? In order to successfully break through in one go, I have already stored too much vital energy in your body. If you are not careful, you will easily go berserk and explode. Unfortunately, this vital energy is not enough for you to break through. I have to maintain the vital energy and calculate how many more spirit jades you need to advance. Do you think it is as easy as playing house? The elder heaven ancestor retorted in a bad mood. Alright. I was wrong, alright? How many spirit jades do I need this time? I'll find a way to do it. Xiaoqun smiled bitterly and shook his head. About 100 or so. That's it for the time being. If there is nothing important, don't look for me. If I am distracted, you will easily explode and die. The elder heaven ancestor hurriedly dropped this sentence and did not reply again. Xiaoqun sighed helplessly. The last sentence of the elder heaven ancestor made him break out in a cold sweat. Didn't this mean that he was carrying a bomb in his body? Moreover, he didn't know when it would explode? This was simply too deceptive. Oh no, it was a deceptive disciple. Moreover, where was he going to find so many spirit jades in such a short period of time? Looking for Jianghu was definitely out of the question. Xiaoqun also didn't want to involve him again. If he was caught again, it would be troublesome. After thinking about it, Xiaoqun felt that it was better to wait for Jianghu to stabilize his position as the successor. Then he would find a way to ask him for some spirit jades. For the time being, he should not think about advancing. Young Master Mu Sen, thank you so much for what you did just now. As Xiaoqun was thinking, Jia Rinzhong ran over and bowed to Jianghu. If it wasn't for your help in the negotiations, I definitely wouldn't have been able to achieve such a good result. We are all descendants of the Jia family. It is only right for me to help you. There is no need to be so polite. Jianghu waved his hand. He was a little embarrassed. In fact, it was Xiaoqun who had helped out earlier. It had nothing to do with him. Therefore, he felt ashamed to accept it. Young Master Mu Sen, if you need my help in the future, just say the word. I promise I won't let you down. Jia Rinzhong was not an untactful person. He naturally understood the meaning behind Jianghu's help. He immediately made a solemn vow and promised. You can call me Jianghu or Mu Senator. Calling me young master sounds awkward. Jianghu naturally wouldn't refuse. He smiled and replied politely. How can that be? You are a direct descendant. I don't dare to break the rules. Jia Rinzhong waved his hand. Jianghu didn't say anything else. He smiled and said, all right, you can go back and rest. There is still a competition tomorrow. You have to work hard and take the position of an elder. Jia Rinzhong nodded and said with a silly smile, all right, then I will leave first. If you have any problems, come find me. See you tomorrow. Looking at Jia Renzhong's gradually disappearing figure, Xiaoqin patted Jia Muzin's shoulder and said, "Not bad, not bad. It seems that this little brother is determined to follow you. Next, it will depend on how you use him." "Isn't that all thanks to you?" Jia Muzin sighed and walked out side by side with Xiaoqin. "We are brothers. There is no need to distinguish between us." Xiaoqin laughed and casually probed, "That's right, just now your grandfather's aura was very strong. People who have reached his level, do they not have any illnesses?" "It should be. I don't think I have ever seen him sick or injured." Jia Muzin shook his head. Recalling the scene of his grandfather's anger just now, he still felt a little scared. He frowned and said, "But Xiaoqin, you were a little rash just now. If my grandfather really attacked in anger, I reckon that both of us would suffer. I'm afraid that we might even implicate Qing Menjing and the others." "Don't worry. I know what I'm doing." Seeing that he couldn't probe anything, Xiaoqin changed the topic. "That's right. Tomorrow's competition is set in the martial arts field. It sounds like they are going to be serious. It should be a direct fight. If you are not sure, don't go. Let me deal with those two idiots." For tomorrow's competition, Xiaoqin was indeed cautious. Although he won the first two matches, it could only be regarded as a narrow victory. Jia Tuyao and Jia Huoyin weren't completely good-for-nothing playboys, they both had their own schemes and plans. If he hadn't been one step ahead, he might have been tricked by them. Therefore, he didn't want Jia Muzin to have an accident in the last round. "How can I do that? If I rely on your help in every match, won't I become a useless person?" Jia Muzin shook his head and said, "Moreover, Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao are not idiots. Now that I am in the lead, they will definitely not let go of this opportunity. They will definitely think of many ways to mess with me." Chapter 1034. "Humph, with me here they won't have the chance to show off," Xiaoqin said with a disdainful look. The two of them chatted as they walked. They had been busy the entire day and felt hungry, so they went to have dinner together. Then they returned to Mu Sen's courtyard. Xiaoqin went back and chatted with the girls for a while. He described what had happened today and then entered a dual cultivation state. On the other side, Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao didn't sleep for the whole night. Once they returned to the yard, they called their father and other powerful helpers over, gathered in Jia Tuyao's room, and secretly discussed something. The door of the room was tightly closed for the whole night. It was not until an hour before the competition began that they hurriedly came out of the room. Fortunately, they were all warriors, so it wouldn't be a problem even if they didn't sleep all night. The Jia family's martial arts practice field was usually used for the Jia family's guards to train. In addition to patrolling and guarding, they would also come here to train with each other. As for the direct descendants and collateral descendants, they all had their own training places in their own residences, so they usually disdained to come here to train with the guards. Before 8 o'clock in the morning, the martial arts practice field was already crowded with onlookers. These people knew that the family's disciples would compete here today, so they all wanted to join in the fun. Some even wondered if they could learn one or two moves by the way. The direct descendants and collateral descendants also arrived at the martial arts practice field before 8 o'clock, and stood in front of Jia Jinyan with the external experts, patiently waiting for the competition to begin. "Now that everyone is here, I will announce the rules of the competition." Jia Jinyan sat on a high platform with a computer in front of him. He looked around at the people in the middle of the martial arts practice field and said in a deep voice, "Today's competition is divided into several parts, including the internal competition of the family and the external competition. The first part in the morning is the internal competition." After a short pause, Jia Jinyan continued, "The internal competition is divided into individual lot drawing competition and challenge competition. The first one is the individual lot drawing competition. The direct descendants and collateral descendants will fight together, and the winner will get 1 point and the loser will not get any points. After the first round of competition, all the winners will be mixed together, and the lot drawing competition will be held again. The scoring system will remain the same, understand?" "Understood." Everyone below the stage shouted in unison. However, Jia Renzhong's voice was a bit shaky. His strength was not that great, so he was a bit afraid. If his luck was bad and he was matched against a direct descendant, then he could only admit defeat. Jia Jinyan nodded his head and said, "This competition is an individual competition within the family. Only direct descendants and collateral descendants are allowed to participate in the competition. Outsiders are not allowed to provide any help. Anyone who violates the rules will be disqualified. Jia Jinyan glanced around with dignity. He signaled his trusted aide to press a few keys, then stood up, pointed to the screen behind him and said loudly, "Next, we'll start drawing lots immediately. The drawing mechanism relies on the computer, and the results are completely random. The opponent will be displayed on the big screen. Now you can start warming up." Everyone agreed and dispersed, each doing their own warm-up exercises. However, their eyes were all fixed on the big screen, and a few of them almost bumped into each other. The big screen soon showed the list of the first round's matchups. The first match was between Jia Renzhong and Jia Shouqi, the second was between Jia Tuyao and Jia Kuqi, the third was between Jia Huoyan and Jia Raijing, and the fourth was between Jia Muzhen and Jia Shilei. Xiaoqun looked at the big screen, then turned to Jia Muzhen and said with a smile, "You and Jia Renzhong have good luck. The opponents you drew are all weak chickens. It seems that you don't need my help in the first round of competition." Actually, Jia Muzhen's expression was quite helpless. "In fact, I'm not that powerful. The cultivation resources of my Jia family are all controlled by my two uncles, Jia Yuto and Jia Yubian. Since I was pushed out of the circle of direct descendants of the Jia family, even my cultivation resources have been greatly reduced. Therefore, although Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao have already reached the level of Martial King, I'm still stuck at the level of General. So, those collateral descendants may be more powerful than you?" Xiaoqun frowned. This situation was a bit out of his expectation. Originally, he did not want to use his mental power to control others too frequently, but it seemed that he had no choice but to use it. That's not necessarily true. Jia Muzhen glanced at the few collateral descendants who had gathered together and said indifferently, "Before I left the Jia clan, it was more than enough to deal with those collateral descendants who came to find trouble. Even if they had more cultivation resources, they only had one more year of accumulation than me. I reckon that their strength would at most be on par with mine." Xiaoqun pondered for a while. When he was about to reply, he suddenly saw a middle-aged man jump onto the ring in the middle of the martial arts arena. It was Uncle Gue, Jia Jinyan's trusted follower. He was the referee appointed to arbitrate this competition. Uncle Gue glanced around and said loudly, "The first round of competition is about to begin. Participants Jia Renzhong and Jia Shilei, please come onto the stage." The arena immediately quieted down. Everyone's eyes were focused on the two people. After hearing the instructions, Jia Shilei did a beautiful somersault and jumped onto the ring. The guards who were watching from the outside saw that his appearance was very eye-catching and couldn't help but applaud. Jia Shilei proudly cupped his hands towards the surrounding people, then gave Jia Renzhong a provocative look. "Ah!" Xiaoqun almost burst into tears from laughing. "This joker, does he think he is performing on the streets? Is he going to say after the fight that those who have money will support the stage and those who don't have money will support the stage?" On the other side, Jia Renzhong conformed to the rules. He seemed to be a little nervous as he carefully walked onto the ring. He subconsciously glanced at Jia Muzhen. Jia Muzhen nodded at him encouragingly. Jia Renzhong closed his eyes and took a deep breath. Then he walked towards Uncle Gue. "Participants are in position. Both of you please listen carefully. In this competition, no killing moves are allowed. As long as your opponent is knocked unconscious or knocked off the ring, you will win. If one party voluntarily admits defeat, then the other party is not allowed to attack without permission. Otherwise you will be disqualified." Uncle Gue warned with a solemn expression. Jia Renzhong and Jia Shilei nodded, indicating that they understood. Uncle Gue shouted, "Competition begins," and quickly retreated far away. The two of them took a stance and circulated their mental cultivation techniques. They revealed their strength and confronted each other. Impressively, they were both experts of the 9th layer of the martial general realm. Jia Shilei was slightly startled. It was obvious that he was surprised that Jia Renzhong had the same strength as him. Therefore he didn't rush to attack. Instead he stood there and prepared to remain still. Jia Renzhong, on the other hand, was a little impatient. With a loud shout, he rushed towards Jia Shilei and swung his palm towards his shoulder. He looked down at them and sneered. "Cough cough. I can still fight," Jia Renzhong said with difficulty. He clenched his teeth and tried to stand up. Although his internal organs were in pain as if they were being torn apart, he was very unwilling and didn't want to admit defeat. Furthermore, he had just acknowledged Jia Muzhen as his boss. Now Jia Muzhen was watching from below the stage. If he suffered a miserable defeat in the first match and left the stage with his tail between his legs without a single point, then his boss would definitely be disappointed in him. DSK, what a cheap life. Since you're so stubborn, then I'll fulfill your wish. Jiashou Luo was very disdainful of Jia Renzhong's final struggle. He smiled contemptuously and lifted his leg to kick him. He planned to directly knock him out or kick him off the stage. Bang! Ah! Jia Renzhong had no ability to resist. After being kicked by Jiashou Luo, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. With a blood-curdling scream, his entire body flew out. Just as he was about to fly out of the stage, he didn't know if it was a subconscious reaction, but he suddenly extended his right hand and grabbed onto a protrusion at the edge of the stage. He managed to stabilize his body at the edge of the stage and didn't fall off. Yo, your luck isn't bad. You actually didn't fall off? Jiashou Luo was a little surprised. His strength should have been enough to send him flying. Under his astonishment, he walked over to take a look. He discovered that Jia Renzhong had grabbed onto the position of the stage. It just so happened that there was a point of strength. No wonder he could still hold on. Jiashou Luo sneered. He lifted his leg and ruthlessly stepped on his right hand. He said impatiently, "Hurry up and get off. What's the point of shamelessly dragging on? Are you a mangy dog?" Hiss, as the saying goes, the 10 fingers are linked to the heart. At this moment, a piercing pain came from his right hand. Jia Renzhong couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. The corner of his mouth twitched a little, but he still didn't have any intention of letting go. He still silently clenched his teeth and persisted. Seeing this scene, Jia Muzin was so angry that his entire body was trembling. He couldn't help but rush to the edge of the stage and yell, "Jiashou Luo, aren't you going too far? We are all children of the Jia family. Is there a need to be so extreme?" Yo, our young Master Muzin is distressed? Actually, I didn't want to do this. But who knew that this brat's donkey's temper was so stubborn? Why don't you let him take the initiative to admit defeat? That way he won't have to suffer any more physical pain. Jiashou Luo didn't take Jia Muzin seriously. He had an evil smile on his face. "Uncle Gue, don't tell me that as the referee you don't care? Jiashou Luo is clearly breaking the rules." Jia Muzin was furious, but he couldn't do anything to Jiashou Luo. He could only clench his fist and turn his head to shout at the nearby Uncle Gue. "Young Master Muzin, I have already explained the rules very clearly. Jiashou Luo didn't break the rules. Therefore, I have no right to interfere with him." Uncle Gue remained unmoved and indifferently replied, "Muzin, I think you shouldn't meddle in other people's business. You should think more about your own situation." Jia Huoyin sat on the stage and mocked in a lukewarm tone. "That's right. Uncle Gue has been by Grandpa's side for so long. Do you think he needs you to teach him how to do things? Stop messing around, just go somewhere cool." Sitting on the other side of the stand, Jia Tuyao taunted Ji Hao with a sarcastic tone as well. Ah. Jia Muzin's heart was extremely cold towards this group of scum who disregarded their family ties. Just as he was about to open his mouth to refute, another scream came from Jia Renzhong on the stage. His arm was once again ruthlessly kicked by Jiashou Luo. It seemed that his arm had already been fractured. He hung limply on the stage and seemed to be on the verge of collapse. "Renzhong, why don't you give up? If you continue like this, your right arm will be crippled." Jia Muzin couldn't bear to do this. He also knew that Jia Renzhong valued this opportunity very much. He wanted to climb up through the cracks, but the price he had to pay was too high. "Young Master Muzin, I can still hold on. You don't have to." Before Jia Renzhong's voice faded away, he was once again heavily kicked by Jiashou Luo. His right arm finally powerlessly drooped down. His body lost its support and quickly slid down the stage. Chapter 1036. Haha. If you fell down earlier you wouldn't have to suffer so much. I really didn't know you. What? Jiashou crossed his arms as he watched Jia Renzhong fall off the stage. Just as he was spouting nonsense with a face full of pride, he suddenly felt a pulling force from his feet, forcefully dragging him down. What everyone did not expect was that unknowingly, Jiashou Jin's right leg had actually been firmly grabbed by Jia Renzhong's left hand. Just now, his thoughts were wandering and he was caught off guard, which was why his entire person was brought down the stage. Bang bang. The sound of two heavy objects landing on the ground could be heard. Jia Renzhong and Jiashou both fell to the ground, causing a cloud of dust to rise. The two of them didn't get up for a long time. Jia Renzhong was injured, so he didn't immediately stand up. Jia Shou was in a daze from the fall and couldn't react for a moment. After being stunned for a while, Jia Shou regained his senses. He immediately flew into a rage, stood up and roared, F***CK, you still want to drag someone down with you when you're about to die, right? See if I don't kill you. As he roared, Jia Shou rushed towards Jia Rinzhong. However, before he could reach him, he was stopped by Jia Muzhen. Is that enough? This isn't a competition. If you dare to take another step forward, don't blame me for being impolite. Jia Muzhen glared at Jia Rinzhong and stood in front of him. Since Jia Rinzhong had become his underling, then he should act like a big brother. Just now, it wasn't convenient to make a move during the competition. If he allowed Jia Shou to show off now, then he would be a coward. Don't be too proud. I want to see how long you can protect him. Jia Shou paused for a moment. He didn't plan to clash with Jia Muzhen for the time being, so he casually threw out some harsh words. With a flip, he jumped back onto the stage. Jia Shou respectfully said to Uncle Gue, Uncle Gue, did you see it just now? It was Jia Rinzhong, that kid who fell down first and then pulled me off the stage. Therefore, I am the winner of this competition. This. Uncle Gue hesitated. To be honest, he didn't see it too clearly just now, so it wasn't easy to make a judgment immediately. He had to ask for Jia Jinyan's opinion. Jia Jinyan also did not immediately come to a conclusion. Instead, he discussed it with his trusted aide for a while. Then, the two of them operated the computer and played the fight between the two of them. They stared at the screen for a few minutes, replaying the fight at a certain time. It seemed that they were meticulously proofreading a certain detail. Jia Shouxing, who was anxiously waiting below the stage, was a little anxious. He didn't know why they were still discussing for so long. He was obviously the winner of that round just now. This old master must have gone senile. On the other hand, Jia Muzhen and Xiao Qin did not care about this. The two of them carefully carried Jia Rinzhong to the side for treatment. Fortunately, Jia Rinzhong's injuries were not too serious. It was just that the bones in his right hand were slightly dislocated. Other than that, there were no other major problems. As long as he received proper treatment, it would not take long for him to fully recover. I announce. After a while, Jia Jinyan and his cronies finally confirmed the final result, stood up and shouted. When everyone's gazes gathered on him, Jia Jinyan cleared his throat and announced the result that made everyone's jaw drop. The winner of the first round is Jia Rinzhong. What? Jia Shouxing, who was about to cheer for his victory, swallowed back his words and stood dumbfounded on the spot. He thought that there was something wrong with his ears. When he turned his head and saw that everyone else also had a surprised look on their faces, he realized that he really did not mishear it. Immediately, he angrily stomped his feet and said, This is impossible. The winner is obviously me. How could it be that Jia Rinzhong kid? I don't accept this. I object. Jia Huiyin and Jia Tuyao looked at each other from afar. They also felt very surprised. However, as juniors, they were also not contestants who had experienced the same situation. Therefore, they did not dare to open their mouths to refute. They could only think that their grandpa must have his own reasons for saying this. After all, their grandpa had always been very fair. He would not deliberately cheat for the sake of favoring someone. When Jia Muzhen, who was on the other side, heard this, he was also confused. However, Xiao Qin had a very calm look on his face. Just now, although Jia Shouxing and Jia Rinzhong seemed to have landed at the same time, he could see the subtle difference. Jia Rinzhong used a lot of strength to pull Jia Shouxing. Therefore, Jia Shouxing's acceleration was faster than Jia Rinzhong's, causing him to land before Jia Rinzhong. It was probably because of this that the old patriarch decided that Jia Rinzhong was the winner. Sure enough, Jia Jinyan unhurriedly opened his mouth and said, Although you were pulled off the stage by Jia Rinzhong, according to the computer's analysis, your landing time was 0.1 seconds faster than his. Because you landed first, this round is your loss. The video and the data will soon be displayed on the big screen. If you have any questions, you can watch it yourself. After Jia Jinyan finished his explanation, he nodded to his trusted aide beside him. His trusted aide got the signal and immediately pressed a few buttons on the computer. Very quickly, the big screen played a slow-motion replay of Jia Rinzhong and Jia Shouxing falling off the stage. Moreover, it froze the moment when the two of them landed. Just like what Jia Jinyan said before, the video showed that Jia Shouxing landed first, followed by Jia Rinzhong. Jia Shouxing was completely speechless. He wanted to defend himself, but he didn't know where to start. He didn't expect that he would lose in such a bizarre way. It was really hard to accept. Wasn't this AF** King scam? Rinzhong, well done. I didn't expect that you, who look like a simple and honest person, would secretly make a dirty move. Jia Muzhen patted Jia Renzhong's shoulder and joked with a smile. Hiss, Jia Renzhong was patted on the wound and felt a heart-wrenching pain. His face twisted as he said, Young Master Sen, I just didn't want to lose your face. Jia Muzhen came to his senses and hurriedly retracted his hand in embarrassment. He changed the topic and said earnestly, but what you did was a little risky. If you landed before him, then wouldn't your previous perseverance be in vain? Don't do stupid things next time. Jia Renzhong nodded and gritted his teeth. I know. Don't worry, young Master Mu Sen. Next time I will use my brain to think before I act. Speaking of which, Xiao Qin interrupted with slight surprise, I really couldn't tell that this martial arts arena is quite high-tech. There are actually so many hidden cameras installed. If it wasn't for the replay of the video on the big screen, I really wouldn't have noticed the positions of these cameras. After watching the video, Xiao Qin released his divine sense and confirmed the positions of all the cameras in the arena. He discovered that there were actually more than 20 cameras in the entire martial arts arena. He couldn't help but be surprised. Actually, these cameras aren't really used normally. It's only when there's a competition or sparring that they would all be turned on. If it's for normal monitoring, there would only be 2 or 3 of them. Jia Muzhen explained. Chapter 1037. Xiao Qin nodded slightly and didn't care too much about it. In any case, the camera could only see if he had disguised his face. As for other aspects, it couldn't detect at all. Seeing that no one had any objections, Jia Jinyan finished recording the scores and announced a 15-minute break before continuing the match. The second match was between Jia Tuyao and Jia Kamu. After the two of them stepped onto the stage, they first put on a show for a while, exchanging a few moves with each other. After that, Jia Kamu was blasted off the stage by a palm strike, and he even let out a shrill howl. Just like that, the fight ended hastily. The third match was the same. Jia Huoyin very easily knocked out Jia Ruijing with a palm strike and naturally got a point. The total time of the 2 matches didn't exceed 15 minutes. Jia Jinyan seemed to have already expected such a result. He didn't express any dissatisfaction or blame. He just calmly recorded all the scores and then announced the start of the 4th match. Xiao Qin didn't care about this kind of behavior. In any case, no matter how his opponent did it, the final winner would be none other than Jia Muzhen. Therefore he simply turned a blind eye to it. Besides, judging from Jia Jinyan's character in the previous matches, as long as he had the means to get points, he basically didn't care about the source of the points. Therefore, even if he protested this time, he probably wouldn't accept it. The 4th match was between Jia Muzhen and Jia Shilei. Before the match began, Jia Muzhen had already warmed up his hands and feet. Hearing the start of the match, he came to the stage. He first nodded to Uncle Gue, then bowed to Jia Jinyan, and then stood there with his eyes closed, quietly waiting for his opponent to go on the stage. His expression was calm, as if there was no pressure at all. Young Master Muzhen, I'm very weak. You have to be lenient. Jia Shilei walked up the stage step by step, slowly strolled in front of Jia Muzhen, and said with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Don't say such useless nonsense. Jia Muzhen opened his eyes and lightly glanced at him. He operated his mental cultivation method and revealed the strength of a martial general peak. He said in a deep voice, I'll give you a chance to make the first move. This way, even if you lose, you won't lose too much face. In that case, it would be impolite for me to refuse. Many thanks for young Master Mu Sen's kindness. Jia Shilei smiled treacherously. Without saying anything more, he quickly sent a palm strike at Jia Muzhen's chest with 100% of his strength. It seemed like he wanted to directly kill him. Good timing. You're half a step to Martial King realm. Jia Muzhen lightly shouted. Then he was slightly stunned. He didn't expect Jia Shilei's level to be more than half a level higher than his. However, it was too late for him to dodge now. Jia Muzhen could only meet force with force and barely exchange a palm strike with him. Boom. The two fierce martial chi instantly collided with each other, releasing a powerful shockwave. The arena was immediately filled with smoke. However, Xiao Qian's 6 senses were sharp. He could clearly see that this time, Jia Muzhen had underestimated his opponent's strength and suffered a bit of a loss. Sure enough, after the smoke dispersed, Jia Shilei only took a small step back. His complexion changed. However, Jia Muzhen frowned and took a few steps back. With a wah sound, he spat out a mouthful of blood. His complexion was very unsightly. It was obvious that his injuries were not light. Young Master Mu Sin, I thought that since you spoke so confidently, your strength should be above mine. In the end, you're really just a martial general consummation expert. It seems that these days, without the help of your family, you haven't been doing well outside. Ah. Jia Shirlei immediately ridiculed. However, his voice was a bit hoarse. It seemed like he didn't have enough confidence. Although he had a slight advantage under the two of them fighting head-on, he didn't feel good either. After all, the gap between their levels was not big. They were almost evenly matched. I really didn't expect that you're already half a step to Martial King. It seems that Jia Tuyao has been training you a lot. I presume that you should be the highest level among the branch family disciples, right? Jia Muzin rubbed his chest and said with a helpless expression. At this moment, the blood in Jia Muzin's chest was stagnant. He felt very uncomfortable. He knew that Jia Shirlei had also suffered some minor injuries. However, it was obvious that Jia Shirlei's injuries were lighter. Jia Shirlei's recovery was faster than his. Therefore, he could only say a few more words, hoping to buy some time by chatting. Just now you told me to talk less nonsense. Why are you talking so much now? This isn't your style. Jia Shirlei quickly finished adjusting his breathing. He had guessed Jia Muzin's intention. Without giving him a chance, he slapped his palm towards Jia Muzin's chest again. He sneered and said, "Is this all you've got? You're not worthy of young Master Tuyao's help. I can deal with you directly." Looking at Jia Shirlei's ferocious face approaching him, Jia Muzin sighed slightly. Originally, he wanted to win this match with his own strength. He didn't expect that his first opponent would be so difficult to deal with. Seeing that Jia Shirlei's palm was already in front of him, Jia Muzin could only brace himself and operate his mental cultivation method. He pushed his palm out. He felt that Xiaoqin would definitely help him. He just didn't know how he would help. Ah. Jia Muzin, have you lost your mind? Obviously, you're not as powerful as me. Jia Shirlei laughed proudly and pushed his palm out. Just when he was about to say something sarcastic, he suddenly opened his mouth and stood still. He was still in the posture of pushing his palm out, but there was still a long distance between him and Jia Muzin. The martial qi that he had released had all dissipated, as if someone had pressed the stop button. It was a strange scene. Jia Muzin was startled at first, but soon realized that it was Xiaoqin who had made a move. In order to avoid killing Jia Shirlei directly, he hurriedly took back 80% of his martial qi, quietly changed his angle and slapped his palm on Jia Shirlei's shoulder. Bang! Jia Shirlei, who was standing still, was hit by the palm. Without any surprise, he was sent flying, drawing a parabola in the air, and heavily fell on the ground outside the arena. The winner had been decided. It was quiet. The spectators on the grandstand were all dumbfounded, especially Jia Tuyao and Jia Raijing. They were very proud just now, thinking that Jia Muzin would definitely lose this round. They didn't expect that Jia Shirlei would suddenly make a stupid move, allowing Jia Muzin to reverse the situation. I declare that the winner of this round is young Master Jia Muzin. Uncle Gue quickly got off the stage and ran to Jia Shirlei, who was lying on the ground. After carefully examining him, he found that Jia Shirlei had just fainted, and his life was not in danger. Uncle Gue immediately returned to the stage, raised Jia Muzin's right hand and loudly announced, "Wait." Jia Tuyao immediately stood up, and fiercely glared at Jia Muzin. He turned his head and said to Jia Jinyan, "Grandpa, I seriously suspect that Jia Muzin used some despicable trick in the previous round. Otherwise, Jia Shirlei would not have suddenly stopped his attack. Grandpa, please order a thorough investigation of this matter. If it is true, I suggest that Jia Muzin be directly disqualified from the competition." Chapter 1038. Young Master Tuyao, are you doubting my ability as a referee? Uncle Gui's face immediately darkened and he said coldly, "As a referee, I was the closest to them just now. If Jia Muzin secretly used a hidden weapon against Jia Shirlei, do you think I couldn't see it?" At this moment, Uncle Gue was extremely dissatisfied. Jia Tuyao's words were too harsh. Even though Jia Shirlei was on his side, he couldn't win every time, could he? He had been working hard in the Jia family for dozens of years. How could he frame a young man? Jia Tuyao was startled. He had been trying to defend Jia Shirlei, and didn't notice that his words had offended Uncle Gue. He hurriedly explained, "This? Uncle Gue, I didn't mean that, I just thought." "Tuyao, you don't have to say it. The fact is in front of us, Jia Muzin won without a doubt." Before Jia Tuyao finished, Jia Jinyan directly waved his hand, interrupted him and said blandly, "All right, let's continue. Now the first round of the knockout competition is over. Next, the 4 winners of the first round will draw lots again to fight against each other in groups. This. Jia Tuyao felt wronged, but since his grandpa had said so, he dared not to refute any more. He sat down unwillingly, gave Jia Rijing a look, and asked him to carry Jia Shirlei back to the side, who was in a coma. He planned to ask Jia Shirlei about the reason when he woke up. Jia Jinyan glanced at Jia Tuyao, then slowly sat down. In fact, he also felt that what had just happened was a bit strange. When Jia Shirlei suddenly paused, Jia Jinyan did feel a slight fluctuation, but when he tried to trace it, he couldn't find any trace, and the audience didn't notice anything strange either. Because of this, Jia Jinyan didn't say it directly, but told his trusted subordinates to form groups as soon as possible, while he secretly kept an eye on Jia Muzhen. Jia Muzhen walked down the stage with a lingering fear, quickly ran to Xiao Chen and said in a low voice with a helpless look, "Xiao Chen, fortunately you were here. Otherwise I would have been defeated by Jia Shirlei. I didn't expect that a member of a branch family could be even more powerful than me. How shameful." "There's nothing to be ashamed of as long as we can win the competition." Xiao Chen patted Jia Muzhen's shoulder and said with a smile, "Now that our points are far ahead, if nothing unexpected happens, the successor to the patriarch position will be none other than you." From Xiao Chen's point of view, Jia Muzhen had already seized the throne of the successor. The others were simply foils. This match was just the icing on the cake. But I'm more likely to encounter Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao. Even Jia Shirlei has become so powerful, I guess those two won't be easy to deal with. Jia Muzhen shook his head in disappointment. He did not feel the slightest joy of victory in his heart. Instead he felt a lot of pressure. "Don't worry, I won't give them a chance to make a move. After you get on the stage, just send them flying with a kick." Xiao Chen's expression remained unchanged as he instructed in a low voice. Since Jia Huoyin was already a Demon King Great Perfection expert, Xiao Chen estimated that Jia Tuyao wouldn't be too bad. Just in case, he intended to let Jia Muzhen finish the battle quickly so that those two wouldn't have a chance to take advantage of him. At this time, the constantly changing text on the big screen had stopped, showing the name list of the second knockout round. Jia Rinzhong came over, pointed at the big screen and said, "Young Master Muzhen, look, the results of the draw for the next match have come out. You will be fighting against Jia Huoyin and I will be fighting against Jia Tuyao." Sure enough. Jia Muzhen looked at the big screen and sighed slightly. "What a pity, if only I was fighting against young Master Muzhen, then you could get one more point," Jia Rinzhong said with a wry smile. He was already very lucky to be able to win a match just now. He didn't even dare to think about the following matches. He only hoped to pave the way for Jia Muzhen, but unfortunately, this draw didn't give him this opportunity. "Rinzhong, this match, why don't you forfeit?" Jia Muzhen thought for a while and suddenly said, "Forfeit?" Jia Rinzhong was stunned, and his face became even gloomier. "You're right, Jia Tuyao and I are not at the same level. If I compete against him, I will only humiliate myself." "That's not what I mean," Jia Muzhen said in a deep voice. "You know the temperament of those people. Jia Shirlei was defeated by me just now, so he has a belly full of anger. He will definitely want to make up for it with you. The difference in strength between you and him is quite big. He has many ways to make you suffer so much pain that you'll wish you were dead without breaking the rules of the competition." This. Jia Rinzhong fell into contemplation. What young Master Muzhen said was indeed reasonable, but if he forfeited now, would he be laughed at for not having courage? Uncle Gue looked at the big screen. The first match of the second round was Jia Tuyao against Jia Rinzhong. He shouted, "Jia Tuyao and Jia Rinzhong, please come onto the stage and prepare for the match." "Uncle Gue, I forfeit." Jia Rinzhong hesitated for a while and finally made a decision. He stood up and said. Compared to his face, he felt that preserving his strength was more important. Uncle Gue was startled and immediately understood the reason. He turned his head to look at Jia Jinyan, who was standing on the stage, and asked him for permission with his eyes. Jia Jinyan slightly nodded to Uncle Gue, indicating that he would directly move on to the next match. Obviously, he also knew that Jia Rinzhong's strength was not good enough, so he quite appreciated Jia Rinzhong's prompt decision to forfeit. After all, not everyone could have the courage to put down their dignity and choose the most beneficial way for themselves. Because Jia Rinzhong chose to forfeit, Jia Tuyao automatically gets 1 point. Uncle Gue received the signal and loudly announced. Then he immediately shouted, "The second match of the second round, Jia Huoyin against Jia Muzhen, please come onto the stage and prepare for the match." Jia Muzhen was a little hesitant. Although his analysis of Jia Rinzhong's situation was clear and logical, he didn't have enough confidence when it was his turn. Seeing this, Xiao Qin gave him a firm look, dispelling his worries in his heart. Go up. Remember what I said just now, you will definitely win this match. Jia Muzhen took a deep breath, clenched his fists, and stepped onto the stage. Oh boy, you have guts. I thought you would be a coward like Jia Rinzhong and choose to forfeit the match. Is it because you are itching for a beating and you want to come onto the stage to let me teach you a lesson? Jia Huiyin didn't step onto the stage at the beginning, and only reacted after seeing Jia Muzhen step onto the stage. Originally, he thought that Jia Muzhen would also forfeit, but he didn't expect that this guy would be so daring as to send himself to be beaten. This was just right, he could finally vent his anger. Cut the crap. I have long disliked you. Today, I will take this opportunity to settle the old scores between us. Jia Muzhen didn't move at all and said coldly. Chapter 1039. Haha. I think you have been beaten silly by Jia Shirlei, right? Do you think you are worthy of challenging me with your martial general perfection realm strength? Jia Huiyin ridiculed as if he had heard the world's funniest joke. Jia Muzhen slowly walked towards Jia Huiyin. As he recalled the days when he was ostracized, he felt a surge of anger rising from the bottom of his heart. His gaze towards Jia Huiyin became incomparably cold. Jia Huiyin simply did not take Jia Muzhen's approach to heart. Instead, he crooked his finger at him and provoked, "Come. Seeing that our friendship in the past was not bad, I can be a bit more generous and let you make the first move. This way, you won't be beaten to the point of kneeling and begging for mercy, complaining that I didn't give you a chance." Don't regret it. Jia Muzhen naturally would not refuse. With a cold snort, his left foot touched the ground, and his entire body soared into the air. Using all the strength in his body, he lifted his leg and kicked towards Jia Huiyin. "Tsk, this is simply child's play?" Jia Huiyin contemptuously smiled. Just as he was about to revolve his heart sutra to resist Jia Muzhen's attack, he suddenly froze mid-sentence. He looked at Jia Muzhen with a confused expression and stood motionless in place. Bang! With a muffled sound, Jia Huiyin's chest was solidly kicked. His entire body flew out without any ability to resist. With a putong sound, he was kicked off the stage. However, his strength was not bad. He did not faint like Jia Shirlei. Instead, he let out a long and miserable howl as he clutched his chest with a deathly pale complexion. The entire audience was once again silent. Apart from Xiao Qin and Jia Muzhen, everyone had an extremely shocked expression. It was as if they had seen a ghost. They clearly saw that Jia Muzhen had only casually kicked Jia Huiyin, and Jia Huiyin had no ability to resist and was directly kicked off the stage. Jia Muzhen had won this match so easily. Especially Jia Shirlei. He had woken up before Jia Huiyin's match began. When he saw the scene of Jia Muzhen beating someone off the stage, he immediately opened his mouth wide. This Jia Muzhen clearly only had the strength of a martial general, but he actually beat Jia Huiyin off the stage. Jia Jinyan also had a face full of surprise. However, his surprise was not because Jia Huiyin was defeated, but because he finally understood who was playing tricks in the dark. Just now, when Jia Muzhen went up the stage, he had been paying full attention. Finally, when Jia Muzhen made his move, he clearly felt Xiao Qin, who was outside the stage, secretly release a trace of demonic energy. Unknowingly, it restricted Jia Huiyin's movements, giving Jia Muzhen the opportunity to take advantage of. With this, it was easy to deduce that the demon energy was released during the match between Jia and Jia Shirlei. Jia Shirlei and Jia Shirlei. It was just that they did not know. The demon energy was Jia. However, Jia Jinyan only glared at Xiao Qin. He had no intention of exposing Xiao Qin's actions. After all, Xiao Qin was able to control a peak martial king expert with such a weak demonic qi. Although it was only for a short period of time, it was still a unique ability. From the perspective of the family, Jia Jinyan believed that if this ability could be used by the Jia family, it might bring them greater benefits. Moreover, Jia Jinyan did not know how deep Xiao Qin's strength was. He did not know if this ability could affect a higher-level martial venerable. If Xiao Qin left angrily because of Jia Jinyan's interception, the Jia family might lose a great foreign aid. Therefore, Jia Jinyan decided not to act rashly. He only glared at Xiao Qin as a warning. But Jia Muzhen wins this match and gets 1 point. Even Uncle Gue took a while to react. Although he did not dare to believe it, he still announced the result of the match. "I don't accept this." Jia Huiyin propped himself up. Although Jia Muzin did not use any martial energy in that kick, it still made Jia Huoyan's chest feel suffocated. He endured the pain and protested, "Jia Muzin must have used a dirty move. Otherwise, with his strength, how could he have kicked me away? I demand another match." "Then tell me, what dirty move did he use on you?" Jia Jinyan did not refute him immediately. Instead, he asked a question. He also wanted to know if this kind of control ability could be detected by the opponent. "I don't know either, but he definitely used it." Jia Huoyan was suddenly at a loss for words. He also couldn't understand. Just now, when Jia Muzin's kick flew over, he was in a daze and didn't know what was going on. He actually didn't circulate his mental cultivation method. It was as if his mind was empty for a moment. When he came back to his senses, he had already been kicked off the stage by that solid kick. "Since you can't give a reason, then I cannot believe your words." Jia Jinyan had an idea in his heart. He said indifferently, "Huoyan, you are too arrogant. Losing the match because of a moment of carelessness is your own fault. Mu Sen's victory is reasonable. I think there is no problem with this match." Jia Jinyan had already made up his mind. He was not prepared to expose Jia Huoyan. Moreover, through the previous matches he could feel that Jia Huoyan's character was too poor. Therefore he did not intend to vindicate him. Although it was necessary to use some sinister and scheming methods in order to become the head of the family, throwing a tantrum when he couldn't control the situation, not thinking of a follow-up solution, and only knowing how to protest, this showed that he lacked the ability to adapt on the spot. Jia Huoyan was dumbfounded. He was speechless for a long time. Originally, he thought that his grandfather would speak up for him. At the very least, he would check the video of the match. He did not expect that his grandfather would overrule him with a single sentence. "All right, no need to say any more. Mu Sen, go rest for a while and prepare for the next match." Jia Jinyan waved his hand. It was obvious that he did not want to continue tangling with this matter. He turned his head and stared at Xiao Qin a few times. He seemed to be planning something in his heart. "All right, thank you, Grandpa." Jia Muzin bowed to Jia Jinyan, turned around and walked down the stage. When he walked past Jia Huoyan, Jia Muzin did not look sideways. He directly ignored Jia Huoyan's murderous gaze. This time he could finally hold his head high. He had vented out all the pent-up emotions in the past. He felt that his whole body was refreshed. Even when he walked, there was a breeze. Returning to the audience seats, Jia Muzin heard a few words of congratulations from Jia Renzhong. Jia Muzin said to Xiao Qin in a low voice, "It seems that everything went well. Next, as long as you control Jia Tuyao one more time, I will be able to smoothly win the match." "I don't think that will be possible." Xiao Qin frowned and slightly shook his head. What? Jia Muzin was stunned. What was going on? Wasn't everything fine just now? Could it be that Xiao Qin's ability had already been used up? "I've been stared at by your grandfather." Xiao Qin helplessly touched his nose. "He has already stared at me a few times. I guess he has found something wrong. In the next match, I want to see you casually fight a few times. Then you should admit defeat. Anyway, I have calculated that you have enough points now." Chapter 1040. Xiao Qin's six senses were very sensitive. Naturally, he sensed Jia Jinyan's gaze. Although spiritual power could not be detected by electronic devices, if he used the same trick again, Jia Jinyan would definitely come out to stop him. After all, he had already interfered with the whole process of the match. What? Jia Muzin was slightly stunned. He subconsciously turned his head to look at Jia Jinyan and found that Jia Jinyan was indeed staring at him. He was startled and hurriedly said, "I got it. Then don't take the risk to help me anymore. I'll just forfeit the match later." "That's not necessary." Xiao Qin smiled and explained, "You still have to go on the stage and pretend and then forfeit. Otherwise, it's easy to arouse the suspicion of others." Although he could no longer control others with his spiritual power, Jia Muzin had won all the matches with irresistible force. It would be too fake for him to forfeit the match now. Xiao Qin thought that it was better for him to go on the stage first, confuse the others and then forfeit. The next match was the ultimate battle between Jia Muzin and Jia Tuyao. Jia Tuyao was a bit confused about Jia Muzin's previous two matches. He felt that it was very strange, but he didn't know what the problem was. During the interval, Jia Tuyao remembered Jia Shirlei, who had just woken up. He hurriedly ran to him and asked, "Shirlei, what happened in the previous match? Why did you suddenly stand still and let him attack you?" "I don't know. When Jia Muzin attacked me, I was ready to fight back. but it seemed that my brain was suddenly out of control. My body didn't move and then I was hit for nothing. Jia Shirlei tried hard to recall, but he still couldn't figure out what had happened. Damn it, it's my turn to compete with him in the next match. If I don't figure it out, won't I also be beaten for nothing? Jia Tuyao anxiously paced back and forth, looking very upset. He didn't want to lose the match for no reason, but he also didn't want to be beaten by Jia Muzin for no reason. He was even more unwilling to forfeit the match. Suddenly he fell into a dilemma. Young Master Tuyao, I think you'd better be careful. Maybe I hit him too hard and hurt him so he played weird tricks on me. Jia Shirlei endured the pain and thought for a while, then suddenly opened his mouth and said, "What do you mean?" At this moment, Jia Tuyao was like an ant on a hot pan. Hearing Jia Muzin's words, he was very puzzled. Could it be that if he wanted to win he couldn't hit Jia Muzin hard? It's like this. If you don't use martial chi in the competition, then Jia Muzin might also not use it. Just now, when he was fighting against Jia Huoyin, didn't he also not use martial chi? He only used ordinary punches and kicks, right? Jia Shirlei cautiously analyzed. I think so. Jia Tuyao thought for a moment, then nodded and said. Jia Shirlei rubbed his wound and grimaced in pain. I was worse off. He knew that his strength wasn't as high as mine, so he deliberately used dirty tricks to make me unable to move. Only then did he win the match. Oh, but my martial arts are very poor. If I don't use martial chi, how can I beat him? Hearing this, Jia Tuyao felt that Jia Tuyao's words were somewhat reasonable. His face immediately fell. Usually he fought with his martial chi and had never used ordinary martial arts. He hadn't even learned any martial arts. Therefore, it would be extremely difficult for him to defeat Jia Muzin. Young Master Tuyao, I think what Shirlei said is reasonable. Why don't you give it a try later? Fight against Jia Muzin without using martial chi. Anyway, he definitely won't dare to kill you, unless he's not afraid of being disqualified. Jia Raijing instigated from the side. This. Jia Tuyao scratched his head and looked a bit hesitant. It was one thing to not be beaten to death, but if he was suppressed by martial chi he would also lose face, wouldn't he? The last round of the competition starts now. Jia Muzin and Jia Tuyao, please come onto the stage. Before Jia Tuyao could make a final decision, the break time had already come. Uncle Gue shouted from the stage. Forget it, I can only make every possible effort now. Jia Tuyao gnashed his teeth and walked onto the stage with a nervous heart. However, he saw Jia Muzin coming onto the stage from the opposite side with a relaxed face, and walking towards him leisurely as if nothing had happened. Tuyao, it's finally our turn to fight. Aren't you a little excited? Jia Muzin showed a gentle and harmless smile. Glancing at Jia Tuyao, who was sweating profusely, Jia Muzin couldn't help but feel a bit amused. Although Jia Tuyao and his teammates had lowered their voices on purpose, every single word of their conversation had been heard by Xiao Qin. Therefore, he told Jia Muzin what he should do as soon as possible. Jia Muzin immediately understood. Although he wasn't very powerful, his martial arts were quite solid. Before, when he was in the university, he had been studying martial arts books. Therefore, not to mention one Jia Tuyao, even if there were 10 of him, he would still be able to defeat them easily. It's okay. Looking at Jia Muzin, who was still making small talk before the start of the competition, Jia Tuyao stuttered out his answer. He felt that he couldn't see through this guy anymore. Then let's start, take my punch. Jia Muzin grinned evilly. Before Jia Tuyao could react, Jia Muzin quickly threw a punch towards his left cheek. Although he didn't use any martial chi, his punch was still quite powerful. Bang! Caught off guard, Jia Tuyao didn't even have the time to block the punch. His face took a solid punch and he immediately let out a scream. He lost his balance and staggered back a few steps. Fortunately, he managed to control his center of gravity in time, otherwise he would have fallen out of the arena. You're playing tricks again. Jia Tuyao covered his left cheek, which was now covered in bruises, pointed at Jia Muzin and yelled loudly. What are you talking about? How am I playing tricks? Didn't I say in advance that I was going to throw a punch? Why didn't you just dodge? Jia Muzin wasn't angry at all and still said with a smile. Jia Tuyao glared at Jia Muzin in anger. How the F***ck did you call this advance? However, before he could refute, Jia Muzin immediately raised his leg and swept towards his waist, while yelling in a low voice, "Look at my leg." What the F***ck? Jia Tuyao had just suffered a loss, so his reaction had become much more sensitive. He hurriedly stepped back and barely dodged Jia Muzin's kick. Right hook. Uppercut. Sweeping kick. Thunderbolt whirlwind kick. Jia Muzin didn't give Jia Tuyao any chance to take a breath. He quickly rushed up to Jia Tuyao, yelled loudly and continuously threw punches and kicks at Jia Tuyao. Although all the moves he used were extremely ordinary, Jia Tuyao was already nervous, and he didn't even know how to use punches and kicks. As time went by, Jia Tuyao's whole body was covered in bruises, and his face was covered in all kinds of colors, as if he had opened a soy sauce shop. Chapter 1041. After defending for a while, Jia Tuyao couldn't take it anymore. Although Jia Muzin was thin and scrawny, his punches and kicks were powerful. Without using any martial chi, Jia Muzin's punches and kicks were as powerful as a tiger's. If Jia Muzin didn't use his martial chi, Jia Tuyao would feel as if he was hit by a stick, and if he didn't pay attention he would be injured. Jia Tuyao tried to find a chance to fight back, but his martial arts were too weak, and he couldn't find a suitable chance to fight back. He had been in a passive state, and every time he tried to fight back, not only did it not work, but he would also be punched or kicked by Jia Tuyao, which was so frustrating. F***CKU. You can kill me but you can't humiliate me. What on earth do you want? When Jia Tuyao finally found a chance to steady himself, he was so angry that smoke was rising from his head. He couldn't help but curse out loud. In front of all his family members, he was humiliated by Jia Muzin, who was much weaker than him. Jia Tuyao felt that he had lost all his face. I didn't want to do anything. This is an arena, isn't it normal for me to fight back? Jia Muzin said innocently. Jia Tuyao couldn't bear it anymore. The great sense of humiliation made him give up all his defensive moves, leaving his body wide open. Like a crazy tiger, he waved his fists and rushed towards Jia Muzin. Wait. Seeing this, Jia Muzin quickly took a few steps back, as if he didn't want to fight Jia Tuyao face to face. What are you waiting for? Come on. Fight back. Beat me down like how you beat Jia Huoyan just now. Jia Tuyao was under too much mental pressure, and his body had just been mercilessly tortured. At this moment he was on the verge of going crazy. He didn't listen to Jia Muzin's order, and still rushed towards him while shouting himself hoarse. Oh, that's what you said. Then I'll fulfill your wish. Jia Muzin stood still. When Jia Tuyao reached in front of him, Jia Muzin suddenly activated his martial chi, grabbed Jia Tuyao's clothes, lifted him up, and threw him out of the arena. Jia Tuyao kept in mind the warning that he couldn't use martial chi. Therefore, when Jia Muzin made his move, he couldn't resist at all, and was thrown high into the air, flying straight out of the arena. He thought to himself, I finally got out. Finally, I don't have to be humiliated by this guy anymore. Bang. In front of everyone's dumbfounded expressions, Jia Tuyao was thrown onto the ground. Strangely, he didn't let out a scream. Instead, a relieved smile appeared on his face. The whole scene was strangely silent. Uncle Gue didn't react and stood there in a daze. Jia Muzin looked down at his hands in disbelief. Did I win just like that? It was actually so simple? Ahem. Jia Jinyan couldn't stand it anymore. He cleared his throat and reminded them. Uncle Gue's body trembled as he came back to his senses. He immediately stepped forward and raised Jia Muzin's hand as he announced, the winner of this match is young Master Jia Muzin. Alright. Well done. A burst of cheers came from somewhere in the audience. Everyone turned their heads and saw that it was Xiao Qin and Jia Renzhong applauding with all their might. Jia Renzhong was so excited that his face turned red. He was deeply happy that he had followed such a powerful boss. Tuyao, what's going on? Were you sneak attacked? Jia Huoyan asked anxiously when he saw Jia Tuyao stand up in a daze. Sneak attack? No. How is that possible? Jia Tuyao glared at Jia Muzin and immediately shook his head to deny it. Jia Huoyan was also dumbfounded. What was wrong with Jia Tuyao? He was so much more powerful than Jia Muzin, but he was thrown off the stage just like that. Did he and Jia Muzin reach some other agreement? Jia Tuyao, in the match just now, did you use your real strength? Why did you lose? Jia Jinyan couldn't help but ask. Just now, he didn't sense any demonic power fluctuation outside the stage, which meant that Xiao Qin didn't make any move at all. How could Jia Tuyao lose in such a favorable situation? Jia Jinyan also considered the possibility that Jia Tuyao and Jia Tuyao had reached a private agreement, but no matter how he looked at it, it didn't seem like it. Feeling puzzled, he simply asked. Grandpa, Jia Muzin is too cunning. He didn't directly throw me off the stage like he did to Jia Huoyan and the others. Instead, he gave me psychological pressure, trying to destroy me psychologically. Jia Tuyao's face turned pale. His tightly clenched fists were slightly trembling, and he stared at Jia Muzhen with red eyes and protested loudly. Jia Jinyan was stunned. What the hell is psychological pressure? Just now, I saw Jia Muzhen use his fists and feet, but you can use your martial qi. If you use your martial qi, won't you completely suppress Jia Muzhen? Grandpa, tell me, such a cunning and despicable trick, how can I let him succeed? It's better to provoke him directly and let him throw me off the stage. In this way, I won't have to be bullied by him anymore. Jia Tuyao answered passionately, his face filled with righteous indignation. The corner of Jia Jinyan's mouth twitched and he was instantly speechless. What kind of F***king reason was this? Even after being thrown off the stage, he still spoke with justice and conviction. With such a low IQ, Jia Tuyao really didn't deserve to be the heir of the family. If he was really allowed to be the heir, wouldn't he be cheated by the other families and go bankrupt? Alright, all of you go and have a rest. Jia Jinyan didn't want to ask any more questions, so he waved his hand to dismiss them. He was extremely disappointed in Jia Tuyao, and on the contrary he felt that Jia Muzhen was quite clever. Even without Xiao Chen's help, he still knew how to take advantage of loopholes, and was a promising talent. Jia Muzhen cupped his hands to Jia Jinyan, then walked down the stage with his head held high and chest puffed out, as if he had won. From time to time, he cupped his hands to the surrounding disciples of the Jia family, looking relaxed. Well done. Seeing Jia Muzhen walking over in high spirits, Xiao Chen smilingly applauded. Hee, it's really fun to fight according to the way you taught me. I guess that idiot Jia Tuyao is about to explode in anger. Jia Muzhen laughed, turned his head to look at Jia Tuyao under the stage and made a gesture of victory. I think you're still too gentle. If it were me, I would directly beat him until he couldn't take care of himself, and then he wouldn't be able to participate in the following matches. Xiao Chen couldn't help but click his tongue when he saw that Jia Tuyao's eyes were about to burst into flames, but because of the rules he didn't dare to act rashly. Jia Muzhen smiled, shook his head and said, forget it, even if I beat him until he's disabled, he can still have external help to participate in the matches, and it won't cause too much of an impact. Those two external help are both useless. If they dare to challenge you, I can easily beat them up with my little finger, Xiao Chen said lightly. Young Master Mu Sen hero Xiao Chen, look, Jia Huoyan seems to be playing tricks again, he's really enjoying it. At this time Jia Renzhong came over, pointed at Jia Huoyan's direction, and said in a low voice with a helpless look. Xiao Chen turned his head to look and sure enough he saw Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao, who had just returned in a hurry, whispered to each other and said something to Jia Inu, after which Jia Inu took a small bag and left the martial arts arena in a hurry. Chapter 1042. After the break, Jia Jinyan stood up and said loudly, the lot drawing competition is over. Next, the challenge competition will begin. According to the rules of the challenge competition, every disciple participating in the competition has the opportunity to challenge others. The person being challenged can be an external helper or a disciple themselves. If the challenger wins, they can continue to challenge others, and if the challenged wins, they will replace the challenger and continue to challenge others. The winning external helper or disciple will get 1 point, and the loser will not get any points. After a pause, Jia Jinyan continued, the rules of victory and defeat are the same as the challenge competition just now. There is no need to kill. As long as the opponent is knocked unconscious or knocked out of the ring, it is considered the winner. If one party takes the initiative to admit defeat, then the other party is not allowed to attack again, otherwise they will be disqualified. After explaining the rules of the competition, Jia Jinyan signaled his trusted aide beside him to press the mouse and then said in a deep voice, now the competition begins. The first challenger will be selected by the computer randomly drawing lots. Everyone please get ready. As soon as Jia Jinyan's voice fell, the names of the contestants began to scroll on the big screen. Everyone's hearts were in their mouths as they stared at the big screen, wanting to know who the first challenger would be. However, the strange thing was that unlike the previous lot drawing competition, which ended in a few seconds and the results were scrolling, this time, after the trusted aide pressed the mouse, the names on the big screen kept changing and did not stop for a long time. It looked like there was a malfunction. The others did not feel anything, but this strange phenomenon had already attracted the attention of Xiao Chen. Recalling the behavior of Jia Huoyan and the others, he vaguely guessed something. He immediately released his divine sense and searched around the martial arts arena. As expected, in a remote corner outside the martial arts arena, Xiaoqun used his divine sense to find the figure of Jianghu. He saw that he was holding a laptop in his hand, and his fingers were typing quickly on the keyboard. No one knew what he was up to. Xiaoqun focused and gathered all his divine sense to take a closer look. He found that Jianghu was actually using hacking software to interfere with the results of the lot drawing. His fingers moved quickly and typed out Jia Huoyan's name. Then he quickly dragged it into the competition's lot drawing software. After confirming that there was no mistake, he hit the enter key. On the big screen in the martial arts arena, Jia Huoyan's name immediately appeared. Xiaoqun raised his eyebrows slightly. It seemed that Jia Huoyan came prepared. I wonder what their next plan is. Presumably it was targeted at Jianghu. Jia Jinyan glanced at the screen and asked indifferently, Huoyan, who do you want to challenge? Will you choose to fight on your own, or will you let an external helper fight on your behalf? Reporting to Grandpa, I choose to have the external aide, Tang Yuanxing, represent me in this match. The person I want to challenge is Jianghu. If he wants to have an external aide, that's fine too. Jia Huoyan replied with an evil smile. Last night, he had discussed with Jia Tuyao for an entire night, and had already reached a secret agreement. They would first defeat Jianghu and Xiaoqun in the competition, then let the two foreign helpers decide the winner based on their own abilities. Jianghu's complexion changed. He had guessed that Jia Huoyan would first get points from him, but he didn't expect that Jia Huoyan would deliberately send an external helper to deal with him. This was too despicable. Why are you still challenging me? Xiaoqun stood up and waved his hand at Jia Huoyan as if he was a beggar. He said impatiently, once you've finished challenging me, you and the others will have nothing to do. I'm a very honest person and I don't want to lie to you. I suggest that you get more points from others. This was the first time that Tang Yuanxing had met such an arrogant opponent. He immediately became furious. He coldly snorted and quickly jumped onto the stage. He pointed at Xiaoqun and said coldly, Xiao, don't waste time like king old woman. If you have the guts, come up here and fight me fair and square. What's the point of saying all this bullshit? Sai, since you want to give points to me so much, then I'll reluctantly accept it. Don't regret it. Xiaoqun helplessly shook his head. He comfortingly patted Jianghu's shoulder, then slowly walked onto the stage and stood opposite of Tang Yuanxing. Xiaoqun didn't immediately make a move. Instead, he patiently waited for Tang Yuanxing to attack first. He had never encountered a real venerable, so he planned to use this opportunity to test the strength of a venerable. I'd like to see what you have to make me regret it. Tang Yuanxing ridiculed. He circulated his mental cultivation and fully displayed the strength of a level 1 venerable. Then he took out a strangely shaped dagger and held it in his right hand. It seemed to be his personal weapon. Xiaoqun glanced at the dagger. The blade was shaped like a black wave, and the handle was made of some unknown wood. There were many vines wrapped around it, and they were constantly wriggling. You can't be so naive to think that you can win with this fruit knife, right? Xiaoqun teased with a smile. However, he didn't let his guard down. He immediately released his strength and used his yuan qi to protect his body. His eyes were fixed on Tang Yuanxing's every move, and he was ready to receive his attack at any time. Tang Yuanxing sneered. He seemed to be very confident in his speed. He slightly bent his body and charged straight at Xiaoqun. His right hand lightly slashed in the air. Xiaoqun was slightly surprised. He didn't expect Tang Yuanxing's speed to be so fast. In almost an instant he was already in front of him. Xiaoqun was about to dodge the attack when he suddenly felt a sharp pain in his right leg. It seemed that Tang Yuanxing's dagger had already cut it. Tang Yuanxing did not stop because of this. Instead, he quickly turned around and came to Xiaoqun's left side. He waved the dagger again and made a cut on Xiaoqun's left arm. Although the cut was not very deep, blood quickly flowed out, echoing the bloodstain on Xiaoqun's right leg. So you're an expert in speed. It seems that I've underestimated you. However, this small injury doesn't seem to be a threat to a venerable. Do you have any other moves? Xiaoqun retaliated mercilessly as he quickly checked the injuries on his arm and thigh. Although the two wounds were bleeding, the blood that flowed out was bright red. It was obvious that the dagger wasn't smeared with poison. Don't celebrate too early. I advise you to quickly prepare for your funeral. You won't live for long. Tang Yuanxing crossed his arms and stood not far away with an expressionless face. He was no longer waiting for an opportunity to attack. Instead, he was leisurely talking as if he was waiting for something to happen. Xiaoqun was stunned when he heard this. He immediately tried to circulate the yuan qi in his body. However, he found that there wasn't any blockage. Instead, the circulation was much smoother than before. For a moment, he was a little confused about Tang Yuanxing's intentions. However, Jianghu, who was standing below the arena, noticed that something was wrong. He hurriedly warned, Xiaoqin. There seems to be something coming out from the wounds on your arm and thigh. Chapter 1043. What? Xiaoqin was taken aback. He immediately lowered his head to take a look and discovered that the 2 wounds on his body were only bleeding just now. Now, a black substance had grown out as if some kind of plant had sprouted inside. Ah, aren't you surprised? Tang Yuanxing finally revealed a cunning smile. He waved the black dagger in his hand and proudly introduced it. Don't be fooled by the ugly appearance of this dagger. It is a living weapon. As long as it cuts someone, no matter how small or shallow the wound is, it will plant a seed in your wound and quickly germinate. Just like your arm and thigh. You also like to play with potted plants? Were you a gardener in the past? Xiaoqin frowned. His body suddenly grew plants. This scene was very strange no matter how he looked at it. You still have the mood to laugh at me? I advise you to take care of yourself. Tang Yuanxing put away the dagger and said in a cold tone, do you think it will just grow plants? This kind of seed will absorb the martial qi, demonic qi and blood in your body as nourishment for its growth. Then it will grow rapidly. When the nourishment in your body is sucked dry, this plant will automatically wither. How about it? Very interesting, right? Oh, then I'll kill you before it grows and then I'll slowly look for the antidote. Xiaoqin couldn't be bothered to delay any longer. He directly mobilized the essence in his body and rushed towards Tang Yuanxing, slapping his chest with his palm. Unexpectedly, after Xiaoqin moved, he found that his right leg was as heavy as lead. The wind that he slapped out also had no power. It was like a breeze blowing past Tang Yuanxing's body, not causing any damage. Alright, I forgot to tell you just now. This plant will not only affect your movement speed, but it will also preferentially absorb martial qi and demonic qi that have attacking power. So, don't struggle on your deathbed. Just quietly wait to be sucked dry. Tang Yuanxing looked at Xiaoqin without moving and said with a mocking expression. Xiaoqin frowned slightly. He didn't expect this plant to be so abnormal. Since he couldn't move or attack, he could only choose to control Tang Yuanxing's mind and let him detoxify him. With that thought in mind, Xiaoqin immediately released his mental strength toward Tang Yuanxing. However, just as it was about to touch his body, it was blocked by an invisible barrier. Holy shit! How could it be so deceptive? Xiaoqin was speechless. This was really an unexpected situation. It seemed that his spirit could only control Demon King level powerhouses at the moment, and it was ineffective against venerable ones. Tang Yuanxing's cultivation at the venerable realm was probably higher than his cultivation at the peak of gold core stage. You can actually release your devil chi to affect me. That's a good idea, but your cultivation is too low. If you were a second layer venerable, I might have fallen for your trick. But now you're too naive. Tang Yuanxing said in a slightly surprised tone. He also felt Xiaoqin's martial qi just now, but he thought it was just one of Xiaoqin's attacking methods. He didn't think about mental control. After the experiment, Xiaoqin felt that Tang Yuanxing in front of him was really a bit tricky. He wasn't as easy to deal with as he thought. Staring at the leisurely Tang Yuanxing, Xiaoqin's face darkened slightly. He estimated that this guy's strength was really not weak. Although his level was only half a level lower than his ability was obviously much higher. Moreover, his speed was too fast. Even if he wasn't affected by the poisonous plant, it would be difficult to catch and defeat him. Just as he felt a little helpless, the voice of Elder Heaven Ancestor suddenly sounded in Xiaoqin's mind. Xiaoqin, are you stupid? This kind of lousy plant, just burn it with a fireball. Why are you waiting to be sucked dry and die? What? Burn it with fire? Then wouldn't I be burning myself to death? Xiaoqin was stunned and asked doubtfully. Although he often used the fireball skill, he had never burned his own body. His first reaction was inevitably a little worried. You're crazy. You used to hold the fireball in your hand all the time. Why didn't you burn your hand? Elder Heaven Ancestor said angrily, you were so logical when you were teaching that Missy. Why are you so crazy when it's your turn? That's right, then I'll try. Xiaoqin suddenly understood. He immediately used his right hand to cast a fireball and burned the wound on his left hand. Sizzle. The black plant was immediately burned by the fireball. In just a few seconds, it turned into black ash and fell to the ground. However, Xiao Chen's arm was not affected at all. Xiao Chen calmed down when he saw this. He tossed out another fireball and burned the wound on his right leg. Not long after, the plant growing on his leg was also burnt to a crisp, leaving not a single residue behind. The air was filled with a burnt smell, and the price Xiao Chen paid was only 2 large holes burned in his sleeves and pants. This is impossible. Seeing this scene, Tang Yuanxing was shocked. He did not expect Xiao Chen to use this kind of sorcery to burn the plant he planted so easily. Oh, why is it impossible? Have you never eaten barbecued vegetables before? Xiao Chen patted the ashes on his body. He felt a lot more relaxed. Immediately, he raised 2 fireballs in his hands and sneered, "Since your gardening performance is over, it's my turn to show my incompetence." After saying that, Xiao Chen did not wait for the shocked Tang Yuanxing to react. He quickly threw the fireballs in his hands. One directly hit Tang Yuanxing's lower abdomen, and the other blocked his way from the side. What the F***ck? Tang Yuanxing was still immersed in the scene just now. He was shocked when he saw this. He had never seen this kind of trick before, and he did not dare to face it head-on. However, at this time his escape route was blocked. He could only fall to the ground helplessly. He rolled forward like a lazy donkey, and only then did he barely escape the attack of the 2 fireballs. Your reaction is quite fast. This donkey roll is also very accurate. However, you rolled to the wrong place. Let me help you. Xiao Chen laughed and teased. He flew over and kicked Tang Yuanxing directly while he had not gotten up from the ground. Bang! There was only a muffled sound. Tang Yuanxing, who was still in shock, was kicked out of the ring. He was caught off guard and hit Jia Huoyan and the others who were watching from the side. That was not the end. The fireball that attacked Tang Yuanxing previously because he had dodged it, flew straight down the ring and landed on Jia Huoyan's clothes. Before Jia Huoyan could react, Tang Yuanxing flew down together with the fireball and rolled into a ball with Jia Huoyan. The 2 of them immediately emitted bursts of flames. Chapter 1044. I'm on fire. It's burning me. Help. Why are you still standing there? Hurry up and get a fire extinguisher. Jia Huoyan panicked and crawled on the ground. He wanted to use the dust to extinguish the flames on his body, but it was to no avail. It's so hot. It's burning me. Tang Yuanxing was also wailing. He wanted to circulate his mind power to resist, but it was of no use. Even his hair was almost burned off. He could only roll around on the ground trying to extinguish the fire on his body, but the result was also in vain. Xiao Chen stood in the ring with his arms crossed in front of his chest. He looked down at the 2 people rolling on the ground. He smiled and teased, "Jia Huoyan, aren't you too fake? There are so many fire words in your name. I thought you lacked fire in the 5 elements, so I wanted to give you a fire to increase your popularity. I didn't expect you to be so intolerant of fire. You really disappoint me." The staff at the scene were not as relaxed as Xiao Chen. They were almost scared out of their wits when they saw this scene. If the young master of the direct line was burned to death, it would be a big joke. They immediately picked up the fire extinguisher and rushed over. They turned on the switch and sprayed on the 2 people. A large amount of white foam quickly wrapped around the 2 people, and the flames on their bodies were extinguished. Jia Jinyan, who was watching from afar, did not expect such a situation to occur. He was a little anxious and stood up unconsciously. He wanted to see Jia Huoyan's injuries. His mood was very conflicted. On one hand, he felt that Xiao Chen was too arrogant and ruthless. He would not show mercy to the Jia family, which made him feel like he was slapped in the face. But on the other hand, Jia Jinyan was very pleased that Jia Muzhen could find such external help. After all, if Jia Muzhen became the family head, the Jia family would have Xiao Chen's long-term help in the future. Although Xiao Chen alone was not like adding wings to a tiger, his various abilities would definitely bring a lot of benefits to the Jia family. Moreover, this guy's strength was not bad. He should even be considered quite strong among his peers. He was still so young, so he must have great potential. In time he would definitely soar to the sky. Uncle Gue, I think you can tell everyone who the winner of this round is now, right? Seeing that the flames on Jia Huoyan and Tang Yuanxing's bodies had already been extinguished, and the 2 of them were sitting in a pile of bubbles in a daze, Xiao Chen indifferently reminded them. Although he hated Jia Huoyan, Xiao Chen would not let him burn to death. It would be troublesome if he was disqualified. Xiao Chen wanted to throw a water ball spell to help put out the fire, but since there was a fire extinguisher, he didn't want to waste his primordial qi. Oh, yes, okay. I hereby announce that Xiao Qin is the winner of this match, and young Master Jia Muzhen has obtained 1 point. Uncle Gui was in a daze today. He had almost forgotten his duties as a referee. He only came back to his senses when Xiao Qin reminded him. Wait. Tang Yuanxing stood up with his face covered in dirt. Just now, he had martial qi to protect his body. Although his hair was burnt, he was not injured. Do you have any questions? Uncle Gui, who was questioned again, asked with a serious expression. Tang Yuanxing was not convinced that he had lost the match. As an external aid, he was not afraid of offending Uncle Gui. He pointed at Xiao Qin and said, "You cheated. Just now you were just sneak attacking me with fire. What kind of ability is that? If you have the ability, let's have a fair and square match." That's right, too shameless. You actually relied on such a despicable method to win. Jia Huiyin could not stand up for a long time. His throat was hoarse. Enduring the pain, he turned to Jia Jinyan and said, "Grandpa, I think this match should not be counted. We should have a new match." He was not as lucky as Tang Yuanxing. Before he could circulate his mental cultivation to defend, he was hit by the fireball. His defenseless body was burned red and even his clothes were burned. He looked very miserable. I say, Jia Huiyin, why are you so childish? Losing the match is losing, but you still have to find an excuse. If you really became the patriarch, then the Jia family would be hopeless. Apart from being a rascal, there is nothing good about them. Jia Muzhen, who was standing below the arena, glanced at Jia Huiyin and mocked him with contempt. Jia Huiyin was furious when he heard this. He did not know where he got the strength from, but he got up and pointed at Jia Muzhen and angrily cursed, "What nonsense are you talking about? Who is being a rascal? It is clearly Xiao Qin who deliberately played dirty. He won unfairly, so I raised my objection. How can it be considered as being a rascal?" Without waiting for Jia Muzhen to open his mouth to counterattack, a snickering sound suddenly came from the surroundings. Many of the disciples and the surrounding imperial guards covered their mouths with strange expressions on their faces. Some of them even pointed at Jia Huiyin and whispered to each other. Xiao Qin shook his head and looked at Jia Huiyin with disgust. TSK, do you think you are shooting an action film? What are you blindly swinging around with a toothpick? Even if you are not afraid of losing face, you still have to consider the Jia family's face, right? There are still outsiders here. What Japanese action movie? What toothpick? Are you stupid, F***K? Jia Huiyin was baffled at first and didn't think much of it. It was only until the surrounding disciples' laughter became louder and louder, and their gazes became more and more unbridled that Jia Huiyin felt something was wrong. He looked down and discovered that the clothes on his body had been completely burned, and he was currently in a vacuum state. Jia Huiyin was embarrassed and anxious. He hurriedly tore a piece of cloth from Jia Shouji's clothes and tried his best to cover the important parts. He felt that everyone was laughing at him, and he was so embarrassed that he wanted to dig a hole in the ground. As if performing a magic trick, Xiao Qin took out a bottle of eye drops from who knows where and put on a show of seriousness. He helplessly sighed and said, "Sai, I came to participate in the clan's tournament, but I didn't expect to see such an unclean thing. What bad luck. I hope I don't get a needle's eye when I go back." The whispers under the stage grew louder and there were even whistles. Jia Huiyin glared at Xiao Qin with hatred, but he couldn't find any words to refute. Dong dong dong. Just when Jia Huiyin's face was about to turn purple, Jia Jinyan frowned and heavily knocked on the table. The laughing people under the stage instantly quieted down. Jia Jinyan's face darkened for a while before he opened his mouth and said, "For this match, Mu Sen's side wins. Either Xiao Qin or Mu Sen can continue to challenge other people. As for the other matters, don't say any more." Since the old master had spoken, the others naturally didn't dare to say anything else. Jia Huiyin could only suppress the anger in his heart and hurriedly put on his new clothes. He grumbled to Tang Yuanxing, complaining about his incompetence. Usually he could boast so much, but in the end he was defeated by Xiao Qin with a few balls of fire. Tang Yuanxing also felt wronged. He didn't even have time to use his true strength. Chapter 1045. He originally thought that he could easily win by relying on his unique weapon. He did not expect Xiao Qin to have such a strange martial technique that was not inferior to his own. In the end he fell into a pit. Oh, the initiative is finally in my hands. Xiao Qin took a few deep breaths and did a few chest expansion movements in a refreshed manner. He then twisted his neck and turned his head to the side family descendants below the stage and waved, Jia Shuluo, Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing, hurry up and come up here. And that dog Jia, where the hell did he go? Hurry up and give your points. Don't wait for this young master to find you personally. Ahem, Xiaoqin, don't talk nonsense. That person's name is Jia Quanyu. Jia Muzin understood Xiaoqian's intention. He wanted to help him gain points, but he was too arrogant. Who would directly call someone from the Jia family a dog? What if he accidentally angered Grandpa? Jia Muzin stole a glance at his grandpa in the stands and saw that Jia Jinyan's face was ashen. His expression was very unhappy, but he did not seem to have any intention of reprimanding Jia Jinyan. Well, that's about it. As long as the words can convey the meaning, it's fine. Xiaoqin waved his hand indifferently and said impatiently, What? This young master's words don't work, right? I called you up on stage but you didn't come up. What is the meaning of this? Are you still going to compete or not? I admit defeat. I also admit defeat. Jia Quanyu and I both admit defeat. Jia Raijing, Jia Shirlei, and Jia Shuluo's faces were pale as they said in unison. Because Jia Quanyu was still operating the computer outside, Jia Shuluo also said it for him. Anyway, this coward would definitely not go up on stage to fight with Xiaoqin. Jia Huiyan's expression was not worried. Obviously, he was a little dissatisfied with the side family descendants' cold feet. However, he also knew that even if they went up on stage, they could only hold their heads and take a beating. So even if they admitted defeat, he had nothing to say. Xiaoqin nodded his head in satisfaction. He turned to Jia Jinyan and cupped his hands, saying, Old Patriarch, since these people are so obedient and took the initiative to give points to Jia Muzin, the heir of the Patriarch, then can you directly give Jia Muzin 4 more Patriarch points? Yes, indeed. Jia Jinyan did not object. After all, Xiaoqin had called out everyone's name. It was the other party who chose to admit defeat and did not break the rules. Therefore, he nodded and immediately added 4 points to Jia Muzin on the table. Alright, Jia Tuyao, now do you want to come up here and give your points to me or let your helper come up here and exercise his muscles? Xiaoqin saw that Jia Muzin's position as the successor of Jia Muzin was basically as stable as a mountain. Therefore, what he needed to do next was to give Jia Tuyao a warning. Xiaoqin, you little bastard, don't think that you can be so arrogant just because you won some points from a few cowards who can't even fight. Before Jia Tuyao could open his mouth, Bai Songyin took the initiative to walk towards the stage. Oh, you actually said that those people of the Jia clan are all cowards? Was it appropriate to say that? Will it harm your internal unity? Xiaoqin asked in surprise. Only now did Bai Songyin realize that in order to ridicule Xiaoqin, he had offended all of Jia Tuyao's allies. He took a glance down the stage and found that the faces of those people were indeed a bit stiff. However, at this moment he had no time to care about that. He snorted coldly, expressionlessly looked at Xiaoqin and said, Cut the crap. If you can only throw fireballs, this kind of small trick, then I can tell you clearly that you will lose this game for sure. It seems that you are quite confident. Then take this. Xiaoqin had already put his hands behind his back and silently condensed 2 fireballs. Before his voice faded, he had already thrown them towards Bai Songyin. Once the fireballs were thrown out, Xiaoqin quickly condensed another 2 fireballs and threw them towards Bai Songyin from 2 tricky angles. 4 fireballs flew out in weird arcs. Some of them were aimed at Bai Songyin's face while some were aimed at his back. It seemed to be a close call, but Bai Songyin seemed to have already grasped the flying routes of these fireballs. With an unknown step skill, he easily dodged the fireballs, then darted towards Xiaoqin at an extremely high speed. How can this be? Xiaoqin was slightly startled. When he was about to defend himself, a dazzling white light suddenly flashed across his eyes. At that moment, Xiaoqin couldn't see anything clearly. When he came back to his senses, he saw Bai Songyin's fist growing bigger and bigger in front of his eyes. It was already too late for him to dodge. Bang! Caught off guard, Xiaoqin's face took a solid punch and he took 2 steps back. Before he could steady himself, another white light flashed across the corner of his eyes. Suddenly, everything in front of him turned white. Alarms went off in Xiaoqin's heart. Before he could retreat in time, the white light followed closely behind. His lower abdomen suffered another heavy kick. It was so painful that he almost vomited out his gallbladder. Holy sh*t, what the hell is this? Xiaoqin tried his best to dodge left and right. He was a little puzzled. Why was there a dazzling white light every time before Bai Songyin attacked? Most people's defense was to observe the opponent's attack pattern and make the corresponding dodging or defensive strategy. However, this white light was not only dazzling, but it also blocked people's vision. It was impossible to see the opponent's attack pattern. Even if he wanted to dodge or defend, he couldn't figure it out. After suffering a few losses, Xiaochen couldn't help but feel a headache. Hehe, do you feel that your eyes are going blind? Bai Songyin used the white light to punch again, knocking Xiaochen to the ground. Then he retreated not far away and said proudly, "Didn't you notice that I wore gloves today? Let me tell you, my gloves and shoes are equipped with a special laser ray emitting device. As long as I aim the ray at the opponent's eyes when I punch or kick, I can make the opponent unable to see clearly for a short time. You should have seen the white light just now, right? That's the ray." Xiaochen spat out the blood in his mouth, endured the heat on his face, stood up and said disdainfully, "I didn't expect that a dignified martial artist would like to use such despicable tricks. Planting flowers and grass, shooting light rays, it seems like it's all fake. Hehe, you can talk for a while. The best is yet to come." Bai Songyin put away the laser ray emitting device and sneered, "Just now Tang Yuanxing made a mistake and let you get lucky. I won't make such a low-level mistake again. Watch my palm." Before he finished speaking, Bai Songyin activated his mental cultivation method and revealed his strength. He was a stage 2 martial venerable. Then he struck his palm out of thin air, and a ferocious and powerful martial qi attacked the position where Xiaochen was standing. Xiaochen was shocked. He had thought that Tang Yuanxing's peak stage 1 martial venerable was already the best of the best. He didn't expect Bai Songyin's strength to be even higher. Chapter 1046. He subconsciously dodged to the side, trying to avoid Bai Songyin's palm wind, but something unexpected happened again. What the hell is this? Just as he took a step to the left, Xiaochen felt his left arm and left leg suddenly come into contact with a few threads that were as thin as hair. Before he could even react, his hands and feet were immediately cut into several wounds, revealing shallow bloody marks. After dodging the martial qi, Xiaochen stabilized his body and carefully observed his surroundings again, only to find that he had been surrounded by a layer of thin threads that looked like a spider web. Looking closely, he saw that each thread was extremely thin, but they were all shining with a sharp light, looking extremely sharp and also emitting a faint martial qi. "It seems that you have found something interesting again." Bai Songyin looked at Xiaochen's cautious look, shaking his legs leisurely and mocking him, "Don't waste your time struggling in vain. The thin threads around you are called the heavenly silk net. They are all made of special materials. Not only are they incomparably tough and sharp, but they are also smeared with special grease. They are not afraid of being cut by knives or burned by fire. Your methods are completely useless. So I advise you to admit defeat as soon as possible, so that you can suffer less physical pain." After saying that, Bai Songyin shouted, once again striking a palm at Xiaochen from afar, launching an attack with martial qi. It was not that Bai Songyin did not want to fight in close combat, but he felt that Xiaochen was a bit strange and unpredictable, with endless tricks up his sleeves. If he was too close, it was very likely that he would be accidentally hit like Tang Yuanxing just now. So he would rather stand far away, first to ensure his own safety, and then choose to use the laser ray device and the silk net to control Xiaochen. Seeing that Bai Songyin's palm wind was getting closer and closer, Xiaochen's mind suddenly flashed, and he decided to do a more risky experiment. He first circulated his martial qi to protect his body, to ensure that he would not be too seriously injured, and then when Bai Songyin's palm wind arrived in front of him, he also fiercely struck a palm. Boom! With a loud bang, Xiaochen's yuan qi and Bai Songyin's palm wind collided heavily under the silk heavenly net. Because Xiaochen had deliberately delayed his attack, the collision of yuan qi and martial qi was equivalent to an explosion in front of his eyes. His internal organs were shaken to the point that they almost shifted. Although he held on and did not get blown away, the feeling of his qi and blood surging was also very uncomfortable. Pooh! After enduring for a while, Xiaochen finally couldn't hold on any longer and spat out a mouthful of blood. The thin thread around him only fluctuated slightly in this explosion. Not only did it not turn into ashes, it didn't even show any signs of breaking. "You're not thinking of using the vibration of the explosion to break the silk net, are you?" Bai Songyin, who was watching from afar, keenly judged Xiaochen's thoughts. He smiled faintly and said, "If I had used all my strength to attack just now, perhaps your plan could have succeeded. But in that case you would have died without a doubt. Exchanging your life for Jia Tuyao's disqualification, I would never do such a stupid thing. I didn't expect that you would see through my trick. It seems that this trick doesn't work, I have to think of another way. Although Xiao Qin said that he would not admit defeat, he was just saying it. In fact, he had no idea what to do at all. I advise you not to waste your energy. Just be honest and admit defeat directly. Otherwise, with the silk heavenly net, you wouldn't even dare to move and I can keep hitting you until you pass out. Anyway, this is still a win. Bai Songyin sneered, gathered his martial qi in his palm again and asked, how about it? Do you want to continue to suffer or admit defeat obediently? Xiao Qin clenched his fists and remained silent. His brain was quickly thinking about how to break the silk heavenly net, but no matter how hard he thought, he could not come up with any solution. It seemed that everything he had learned in the past could not be of any use in this situation. Below the stage, Jia Tuyao's face was filled with excitement, and he even wanted to cheer loudly. As for Jiang Muzhen, his face was filled with anxiety. At the moment, everyone could see that Xiao Qin was at a disadvantage. He wanted to yell at Xiao Qin to give up, but he dared not to disturb the progress of the match. Although he was as anxious as an ant on a hot pan, Jiang Muzhen could only stare at Xiao Qin anxiously, hoping that he could be like before and produce another miracle at the most critical moment, turning the situation around. However, the most important thing was to preserve his life. Even if Xiao Qin admitted defeat right now, he would not have any complaints. Alas, Xiao Qin, I don't want to talk to you anymore. Don't you know how to use your brain? It seems that I have to help you solve this problem. Before Xiao Qin could come up with a solution, the Elder Heaven Ancestor could not stand it anymore, and directly took over his body. Then I'd better learn your method. I can also take a break. Hearing the words of the Elder Heaven Ancestor, Xiao Qin calmed down and immediately relaxed the control of his body. Then, he felt his vision suddenly go black, and when it became bright again, his primordial spirit was already in the sea of consciousness. Then watch carefully. The Elder Heaven Ancestor shouted in a low voice, controlling Xiao Qin's body. He directly stretched out his hand, grabbed the surrounding silk and gradually released waves of cold air from his palm, slowly freezing the silk. Ah! Xiao Qin, are you stupid? Are you trying to pull the silk by force? What? Bai Songyin saw Xiao Qin grabbing the silk, and at first he was very sneering, thinking that Xiao Qin was crazy, and wanted to pull the rope at the risk of his whole hand being cut off. But when he saw a layer of white fog slowly emerging from Xiao Qin's palm, and spreading to the silk, he felt that something was wrong, and his face gradually changed. Not long after, the silk around Xiao Qin was all wrapped up by the white fog, and frozen into pieces of ice. Little bastard, you want to trap me with this broken thing? It's a joke. The Elder Heaven Ancestor sneered, and gently pulled with his hand. With a few light snapping sounds, the ice wrapped around the silk broke, and directly fell on the arena, turning into snow water. No. Impossible. This silk is a product of ancient times, how could it be broken so easily? Bai Songyin was so surprised that he could not close his mouth, and could not believe what had happened in front of him. He relied on the laser firing device and the silk net to run amok in Jianghu, and he had never seen anyone who could break this special silk. He did not expect that Xiao Qin could destroy it so easily. Not far away in the stands, a strange light flashed in Jia Jinyan's eyes, and he looked at Xiao Qin with a burning gaze. Obviously he was very appreciative of his endless martial arts skills. Alright, the fun game ends here. I can't be bothered to waste any more time with you. Let's get serious next. Xiao Qin stretched his muscles and did not say anything else as he slammed his palm towards Bai Songyin. Chapter 1047. Thanks to the possession of the Elder Heaven Ancestor, Xiao Qin's cultivation had increased by 1 level. The moment he rushed out, he revealed the strength of a level 2 venerable. Ah, you're also hiding your strength. Bai Songyin had yet to recover from his previous shock. Seeing this, he was shocked once again. He did not dare to be careless against an attack of the same level. He immediately circulated the martial qi in his body and fiercely waved his palm, forcibly meeting Xiao Qin's qi. Boom. The two qi violently collided with each other. The entire arena shook. Xiao Qin and Bai Songyin spat out blood at the same time and were sent flying. They fell heavily on the edge of the arena and did not move for a long time. It seemed that both of them were seriously injured. The judge, Uncle Gue, quickly ran over and checked their breathing. He found that both of them were still alive. However, Xiao Qin's injuries were more serious, and Bai Songyin's injuries were not so good either. After spitting out a few mouthfuls of blood, he forced himself to sit up. Elder Heaven Ancestor, Why did you withdraw part of your martial qi just now? Why didn't you just use your full strength to deal with him? Xiao Chen's primordial spirit asked in surprise. He felt that when the Elder Heaven Ancestor attacked, he secretly withdrew 20% of his martial qi. On the other hand, Bai Songyan used 10% of his martial qi in a moment of desperation. With this, Xiao Chen's side was at a disadvantage, so he was a little puzzled. What do you know? If I didn't withdraw my martial qi, he would have been killed long ago. Wouldn't your previous efforts be in vain? Elder Heaven Ancestor said impatiently. Besides, I'm still maintaining the stability of the martial qi in your body. If I used my full strength, it would easily cause a backlash. But it seems that you are the one who is more seriously injured. How are you going to defeat him? Xiao Chen thought for a while and said, why don't we just admit defeat? We have enough points anyway. There's no need to fight to the death. It was not that Xiao Chen was afraid, but he felt that if he was injured too badly, Jia Huiyan and Jia Tuyao would take the opportunity to cause trouble. Without him, Jia Muzin might not be able to suppress them with his strength. Don't worry. You have quite a lot of essence stored in your body. I'll just borrow some of it. It just so happens that the remaining essence is more stable. Elder Heaven Ancestor spat out a mouthful of blood. He controlled Xiao Chen's body to stand up and said, but after this competition is over, you have to hurry up and raise your level. Otherwise both of us will be finished. Xiao Chen nodded repeatedly in the sea of divine sense. He thought that after the competition was over, he would immediately go to the Heavenly Jade Mine to practice in seclusion and break through as soon as possible. Otherwise, his cultivation would be too weak in the inner martial arts world, where venerables were everywhere. If they were not careful, they would fall into danger. Bai Songyan also stood up at this time, wiped the bloodstain at the corner of his mouth and said in a deep voice, I didn't expect you to be so sinister, knowing to hide your strength. Since I can't kill you today, then I might as well cripple you. If I let you continue, you will definitely become a threat to Jia Tuyao in the future. Little brat, how dare you say that you want to cripple my cultivation with your insignificant strength? Elder Heaven Ancestor retorted sarcastically. Then he quickly extracted a part of the essence stored in the sea of divine sense, which instantly raised Xiao Chen's cultivation by half a level. Then without hesitation, he raised his palm and slapped towards Bai Songyan's chest. You are actually at the peak of level 2 of the Venerable Realm. Bai Songyan, who was arrogant just now, was completely dumbfounded. However, he didn't have time to think too much at this moment. The great pressure was pressing down on him, and he had no choice but to brace himself and push out his palm with all his strength. Boom! A strong shock wave spread out from the arena, which directly sent Uncle Gue, who was standing on the edge of the arena, flying out. Those who were relatively close to the arena were also shaken to the ground. Wood chips and stones flew everywhere, and the whole arena was in chaos. Jia Muzin's face turned pale with fright. He wanted to rush into the arena, but he was afraid that the match was not over yet. So, he stood up from the ground and stood on his tiptoes to watch, but he could only see the thick smoke covering the entire arena. Jia Jinyan sat still, without any change in his expression. It was hard to tell whether he was happy or angry, but he looked mysterious. As the smoke finally dispersed, a motionless figure gradually emerged on the arena. Jia Muzin took off his dusty glasses, wiped them on his clothes and then put them back on. After taking a closer look, he found that the figure was actually Xiao Chen. Except for Xiao Chen, there was no one else on the arena. Jia Muzin turned his head again and found that on the other side of the arena, Bai Songyan was lying on the ground, twitching. His eyes were rolled up and he was unconscious. His mouth and nose were constantly bubbling with blood. It seemed that his injuries were very serious, and it seemed that his life was in danger. Although Uncle Gue was sent flying, fortunately he was not in the center of the explosion, so he was not hurt. At this time he had already rushed back, ran to Bai Songyan's side and checked his pulse. His expression slightly changed, but he still stood up and reported loudly, Bai Songyan is still alive, but 80% of his tendons and veins are broken. Even if he is cured, he will be a useless person for the rest of his life. After reporting, Uncle Gue took out a pill from his pocket, leaned over and put it into Bai Songyan's mouth, then stood up and ordered the guards to carry him away to rest. Seeing Bai Songyan being carried away, Jia Tuyao was very angry and shouted, Grandpa, this time Xiao Chen broke the rules, right? If Uncle Gue didn't save him in time, Bai Songyan would definitely die this time. And our Jia family will inevitably become enemies with his school. Jia Muzin is so reckless, I think he should be disqualified. Tiao, don't make trouble. Jia Jinyan said in a low voice. Although Bai Songyan almost lost his life, Xiaoqin indeed won the game with his own strength. Therefore he didn't break the rules in this game and he can get points. After saying this, Jia Jinyan slightly sighed in his heart. Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao were the two direct descendants that he especially valued, and he valued them much more than Jia Muzin, who had run away from home. He didn't expect that they would always like to play this kind of trick to suppress their opponents. He couldn't help but feel a little disappointed. This is still not breaking the rules? Jia Tuyao's expression was both sullen and helpless. He felt that he had suffered a great loss this time. In order to teach Xiaoqin a lesson, he almost lost Bai Songyan's life. Not only did he lose the game, he also had to face the anger and blame of his school. Just thinking about it gave him a headache. Jia Tuyao, don't play this old trick. Even if you don't get tired of it, I do. If you have the guts, come up here and have a fight with me, I'll play with you anytime. Xiaoqin's face didn't look too good and he coldly mocked. Who wants to fight with you? Later when we have to fight with outsiders, you'll have a hard time. How could Jia Tuyao dare to fight against Xiaoqin, who was at the peak of the second layer of the Venerable Realm? Chapter 1048. Then don't talk nonsense. Although the expression on Xiaoqin's face didn't change, he was secretly relieved. Just now he had already suffered internal injuries, and he had activated his power to defeat Bai Songyan. Now he was almost exhausted. If Jia Tuyao was really irritated and insisted on fighting against him, he might be able to knock him down with only one finger. However, Jia Tuyao was also a coward, he didn't dare to challenge Ji Hao at all. After adjusting his breathing for a while, Xiaoqin recovered a portion of his strength. Then he cupped his hands at Jia Jinyan and asked without batting an eyelid, "Old Patriarch, I seem to have already challenged all the participants. The competition should be over, right? Can you announce the results now?" "Yes, the challenge competition is over, Jia Muzin's team is the final winner." Jia Jinyan nodded and continued, "Since this is the second to last round of the competition, the next round will be the final external competition. I will announce the total results of all the participating disciples so that everyone can have an idea of what's going on." The few young men who had been whispering to each other immediately shut their mouths and looked at Jia Jinyan on the stand. In fact, they all had a rough idea about the results, but it was different when it was announced by the family head. Jia Jinyan paused for a while, looked down at the table and read, "The current results, Jia Muzin is in first place with 13 points, Jia Tuyao and Jia Renzhong are tied for second place, with 5 points each, Jia Huoyan is in third place, with 3 points, Jia Shirlei and Jia Raijing are in second place, with 2 points each, Jia Tsugue and Jia Shougue are in third place." After reading the results, Jia Jinyan looked around and found that all the young men had different expressions. Some were angry, some were full of confidence, and some were dejected and had lost their fighting spirit. Seeing everyone's expression, Jia Jinyan knocked on the table and said, "Well, this morning's internal competition is over. Everyone can take a break, and later we will draw lots to randomly decide the opponents of the external competition in the afternoon. I hope that the young men with lower points can keep working hard, and those with higher points don't be too proud, keep your good results." Although he said so, Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao were still shocked. They knew that Jia Muzin's points were higher than theirs, but they didn't expect it to be so much higher. 13 points. How could this be possible? How did he get it? Wasn't the difference too great? Both of them found it hard to believe. Perhaps seeing through everyone's thoughts, Jia Jinyan simply gestured for his trusted aide to operate the computer and list out the points obtained by everyone in each match. He made an electronic file and then displayed it on the big screen. Looking at the total score, although Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao were still not convinced, they had no way to vent their anger. Therefore, they could only hope that this afternoon's match could help them turn over a new leaf. At this time, Jia Muzin did not have the time to be happy. He had already noticed that Xiaoqin's complexion was not quite right. As soon as his grandfather's voice fell, he hurriedly ran into the ring and helped Xiaoqin down. As he walked, he asked worriedly, "How are you? I was almost scared to death just now. In fact, we have accumulated a lot of points so you didn't have to work so hard." "I'm fine, I can still hold on." Xiaoqin comforted him, then shook his head with a bitter smile and said, "But I'm afraid I can't participate in this afternoon's match. More importantly, we still don't know how the points will be calculated in the external matches. If we don't participate in the match and Jia Huoyan or Jia Tuyao get a high score, we will suffer a great loss." While Jia Jinyan was talking, Xiaoqin adjusted his breath while calling Elder Heaven Ancestor in his mind for a few times. However, he found that Elder Heaven Ancestor didn't respond at all, as if Elder Heaven Ancestor had fallen into a deep sleep. At the moment, his physical condition was quite bad. Even if his external injuries could be healed before the match, his power wouldn't be restored so quickly. Therefore, Xiaoqin couldn't help but feel a bit worried. Forget it, it's fine. I, Jianghu, can already die without regret being able to make friends with you. As for the position of family head, I don't care about that position at all. Whoever wants to be the family head can be it. Jianghu waved his hand and said with a resolute face, anyway, no matter who my opponent is this afternoon, I will give up the match. You take care of your injuries and don't participate in the match for me anymore. Jianghu felt very guilty. He would rather not be the family head of the Jia family than let Xiaoqin take risks. As the saying goes, one would do anything for one's brother. For him, Xiaoqin would even lose his life. Such a sincere brother, how could he let him put himself in danger again? What nonsense are you talking about? It wasn't easy to get to this point, how can you just give up like that? You don't need to worry about it, just leave the drawing of lots to me. Xiaoqin waved his hand, found a chair, sat down and continued to adjust his breath. Meanwhile, he was thinking about how to let Jianghu draw a weak opponent. What made Xiaoqin depressed was that he wasn't familiar enough with the situation of the inner pugilistic world. Although he knew how to influence the results of the drawing of lots, he couldn't find a suitable opponent. After all, with Jianghu's strength, it was really not easy to find an evenly matched opponent in the inner pugilistic world. Moreover, he didn't know what level the people in the inner pugilistic world were at. Even if the name list came out, he could only rely on luck. Moreover, besides Jianghu, Xiaoqin was still thinking about finding an opponent for Jiao Renzhong. He had helped him lay the foundation for so much. Now that it was the last match, Xiaoqin didn't want to fail miserably. He had to help Jiao Renzhong win the position of elder in one fell swoop. Everyone should have rested enough, right? After a while, Jia Jinyan stood up and said loudly, next, let's begin the random drawing of lots for the outer competition in the afternoon. Jia Jinyan gave a look to his confidant beside him. That confidant nodded, tapped a few times on the keyboard and then pressed the left mouse button. Soon, the names of Jianghu and the other contestants appeared on the left side of the big screen, lined up in a row. Not long after, the names of other sex candidates appeared on the originally blank right side. After the two columns of names stayed for a while, they began to move up and down, randomly combining. I think everyone has seen it just now. Your opponents are all young talents that the Jia family has invited from the inner pugilistic world. Every one of them has been strictly screened. Regardless of age or strength, they are about the same as you. Therefore, there won't be a problem of too big a difference in strength to ensure the fairness of the competition. Jia Jinyan explained indifferently. Xiaoqin squinted at the names on the big screen. Suddenly his eyes lit up. He discovered two very familiar names. With a thought, Xiaoqin immediately released his mental strength and used his divine sense to find the hiding position of Jia Quincy outside the martial arts arena. He directly used his mental strength to control him and made him quickly tap a few times on the notebook, secretly changing the fighting combination. Chapter 1049. What happened? After Xiaoqin successfully modified it, he immediately withdrew his mental power control. Jiakusu blinked and gradually regained his consciousness. He looked at the laptop in front of him and was very inexplicable. What did I just do? Why can't I remember it all of a sudden? However, Jiakusu didn't have time to recall. He quickly operated the computer and found a weaker opponent for Jia Huoyan. He didn't bother to modify the rest. He hit the enter key and sent the result out. The big screen quickly showed the match list. Jianghu was stunned after a glance. He said with a stunned face, "Why am I fighting against young Master Xing? Isn't the difference in strength a bit too big? Where is that Shi Yuchuan who is fighting against everyone from? I've never heard of him." Not bad, right? I specially arranged this young Master Xing for you. As for that Shi Yuchuan, don't bother about him. He's just a weakling. As Xiaoqin treated his injuries, he admired his masterpiece. Coincidentally, he knew these two people in the martial arts world, so he could arrange for them to enter. That young Master Xing is at the level of Demon King Great Perfection. How can I beat her? Jianghu was suddenly depressed. If the opponent was weaker, then there was still room for him to score points. He didn't expect to get a young Master Xing. He really didn't know what Xiao Chen was thinking. What's there to worry about? With me here, you don't have to be afraid of anything. Xiao Chen shrugged. It might be a bit difficult to deal with others, but he was extremely experienced in dealing with little Miss Xing. He could easily catch a snail with 3 fingers. Jianghu misunderstood and thought that Xiao Chen was going to play for him again. He quickly stopped him. No. You're so seriously injured. Aren't you joking with your life if you go on stage? Besides, Grandpa hasn't announced the rules of the game yet. I don't know if foreign aid can go on stage. Maybe the afternoon game can only be played by the disciples of the Jia family? Don't worry, I won't go up. Xiao Chen could not help but laugh when he saw Jianghu's nervous expression. At most, I'll just stand below the stage and threaten her. I don't believe that damn transvestite would really dare to make a move on you. Jianghu nodded. It's hard to say. I heard that in order to invite these external guests, the Jia family has prepared generous rewards. As long as you win the invitational tournament, you can get a lot of high-quality spiritual jades. If young Master Xing becomes envious of those spirit jades, wouldn't I? Jianghu said with a bitter face. Jianghu had no intention of blaming Xiao Chen. But now that the match between him and young Master Xing was set in stone, it was too late for regrets. It seemed like he could only admit defeat. Don't worry, if this little girl sees me, she absolutely won't dare to do anything to you. Xiao Chen patted Jianghu's shoulder and said without a care in the world. Jianghu did not know where Xiao Chen's confidence came from. He could only smile bitterly and nod his head. Although he had complete trust in Xiao Chen, words were no guarantee. The temptation of the spiritual jades was too great. Who knew what the result would be? Therefore, Jianghu's heart was still a little unsettled. The name list has been announced. Now, everyone should know who you will be fighting against, right? If you have nothing to do, you can go eat and rest. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, gather at the martial arts hall on time to start the external competition. Jia Jinyan announced with a dignified face. He whispered a few words to his trusted aides, then hurriedly left the martial arts hall and went to the study room to prepare for the calculation of points for the afternoon competition. Jia Jinyan's trusted aides immediately took out their mobile phones and notified those who came to participate in the competition. At the same time, they arranged for people to immediately pick them up and bring them to the Jia family. Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao's expressions were quite relaxed. It seemed like they had been assigned a more suitable opponent. Although the difference in points between them and Jianghu was relatively large, the two of them agreed that as long as they could win the afternoon competition, they might have a chance to take the position of the successor. Moreover, seeing that Jianghu's opponent was young Master Xing, who was much weaker than him, and Xiao Chen seemed to be injured in the battle with Bai Songyan in the morning, it was estimated that he would not be able to participate in the competition again. Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao both felt that he would definitely lose the afternoon competition. After a hurried lunch, Xiao Chen adjusted his breathing for a while and finally recovered a lot from his injuries. He was not too worried about the external competition in the afternoon. At the moment, his most important task was to find spiritual jades as soon as possible to promote himself. Otherwise, once he encountered danger, it would be very troublesome. At present, Xiao Chen's state could be said to be extremely poor. After the battle with Bai Songyan, the Elder Heaven Ancestor was seriously injured and directly entered a state of dormancy. Moreover, the flame of the underworld and Xiaoma had not yet woken up. His trump card was basically useless. The only person who could barely help him was probably Cheng Menjing. In fact, what puzzled Xiao Chen the most was why the flame of the underworld and Xiaoma had been dormant for such a long time this time. In the past, if they were injured, they would basically wake up in a month. This time it seemed that it had been nearly half a year, but these two still had not moved. However, after careful consideration, Xiao Chen roughly understood the reason. In order to prepare for breaking through to the nascent soul stage, the vitality in his body was stored by the Elder Heaven Ancestor. Presumably, the flame of the underworld and Xiaoma had not been able to absorb enough vitality, so they could not recover from their dormancy. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, everyone gathered in the martial arts arena on time. The people who were invited to participate in the competition from other sects had also arrived. Many acquaintances were chatting at the scene. There was no atmosphere of a competition at all. Instead, it was more like they were here to play. Some of the participants were whispering, saying that they were following the instructions of the sect or family elders. There seemed to be a reward for coming to the competition this time, but they did not know what it was. A small portion of the participants were interested in the rewards. However, the majority of the honored guests were indifferent. The people who were invited were basically the proud sons and daughters of their clans or the rising stars of their sections. They possessed outstanding strength and talent. Normally, their sects or clans would provide them with heavenly materials and earthly treasures. If it wasn't for some extremely precious reward, it wouldn't have attracted their attention. All participants, please be quiet. Master Jia has begun to announce the rules of the competition. Uncle Gue received Jia Jinyan's instructions and stood up and said loudly. Although it was slower than the silence in the morning, the noise in the arena gradually subsided. Everyone looked at Jia Jinyan, wanting to hear what the rules of the competition were. Listen up, Jia family disciples. Jia Jinyan said in a loud voice, in this external competition, only you can participate in the competition. The external helpers you have invited are not allowed to have any force assistance. They can only give tactical advice and cheer on the spot. Otherwise, you will be disqualified from the competition and all your points will be deducted. Chapter 1050. At this point, Jia Jinyan looked at Xiaoqin meaningfully, as if warning him to restrain himself and not to play any tricks like he did in the morning. Although Xiaoqin felt Jia Jinyan's gaze, he did not pay much attention to it. He focused on identifying where Xing and Shi Yuchuan were. After confirming that both of them had arrived, he was relieved. Jia Jinyan looked at him and retracted his gaze. He continued, this competition will end when it is determined. If the Jia family wins, they will get 3 points. If not, 3 points will be deducted. If the other sects or families win, they will get the corresponding amount of spiritual jades as compensation. If they lose, they will only get a small portion of the spiritual jades as compensation. Is everyone clear? Understood. The audience replied in unison. However, the expressions of those who were invited to participate were no longer as calm as before. Their mentality had undergone a subtle change. They did not expect the reward to be spiritual jades. Originally, the guests thought that no matter how powerful they were, it would only be some heaven and earth treasures or spiritual weapons. Therefore, they had a nonchalant attitude and planned to just exchange some pointers. However, when they found out that the Jia family was actually giving out spiritual jades as a reward, they were instantly energized. Spiritual jades were even more awesome than heaven and earth treasures. They could not be obtained even if they wanted to. Now that they had such a rare opportunity, they had to give it their all and get a few more. Martial arts sects never forbade the young disciples from exchanging pointers with each other. Instead, they encouraged them to do so. After all, exchanging pointers with each other was more beneficial to the growth of the disciples. The only rule for exchanging pointers was that one could not use too much force or cause death or disability. Otherwise, it would not be a simple exchanging pointers. Not only would a good seedling be destroyed, it would definitely cause unnecessary conflicts between sections. If anyone has any questions, you can raise them now. Jia Jinyan was a little worried and repeated, if we wait until the competition starts, then we will assume that it is to solve the rules. There will be no additional explanations. Old Master Jia, I would like to ask a question. A familiar voice sounded. Xiaoqin looked up and saw that it was Xing, who came to participate in the competition. She stepped forward and cupped her hands. So it's young Master Xing. Please tell me, I will definitely answer. Jia Jinyan obviously knew young Master Xing. At this moment he was stroking his beard with a smile. Young Master Xing was still dressed like a man. He bowed to Jia Jinyan and said, I would like to ask, if we outsiders win, how many spirit jades can we get? If you lose, how much will be deducted? Hee, we naturally welcome guests who are invited to participate in the competition. If the guest can win the competition, he or she will receive 20 pieces of spiritual jades as a reward. If he or she loses, they will only receive half of it. Jia Jinyan smiled and patiently explained. Okay, thank you for your guidance, old Master Jia. Little Miss Xing nodded her head in understanding and retreated back into the crowd. She lowered her head as if she was thinking about something. The honored guest's expression became even hotter. 20 pieces of spirit jades. Even if he lost, he would still get 10 pieces of spiritual jades. Usually, it was a little difficult for his own sect to obtain a piece of spiritual jade. The Jia clan was actually so generous. This trip was worth it. After waiting for a while, seeing that no one else came out to speak, Jia Jinyan gestured to his trusted aide and said in a deep voice, If no one has any more questions, then the competition officially starts now. His trusted aide looked at the matchup list and announced loudly, "The first match, Jia Tuyao against Yunnan Dun. Both of you, please get on the stage immediately and prepare for the match." Hearing this name, Xiao Qin almost choked. He looked at Jia Tuyao and another young man walking on the stage with a strange expression. He turned to Jia Muzin and said with a smile, "I thought only your Jia clan's names were strange. I didn't expect that the Yu clan would have a Yunnan Dong. I really don't understand the inner martial arts sects and clans. What are they thinking when they name their clans? I heard that the Yu clan's third-generation disciples must have north, south, east, and west in their names, just like the Jia clan's metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. I heard that this is how the clan's genealogy is arranged." Jia Muzin spread his hands and also didn't know whether to laugh or cry. In fact, he felt that his own name was already considered normal. Those canine mantis and hand mantis were completely incomprehensible to him. So that's how it is. I was wondering why they didn't choose a more valuable name. Xiao Qin muttered. He looked towards the stage and suddenly cursed, "F***C, how is this a fight? These two people have colluded with each other, haven't they? They are really playing us like monkeys." On the stage, Jia Tuyao and Yunnan Dun were punching and kicking each other. Their movements were so light that they didn't even have the slightest bit of strength. It was completely a fight that was even more fake than a street performer. This is very normal. They're good friends. I guess they have already discussed this before the fight started. Yunnan Dun will definitely lose on purpose so that Jia Tuyao can get 3 points. Later on, Yunnan Dun will ask Jia Tuyao for some spirit jades as compensation. Jia Muzin wasn't surprised at all and said with a face full of disdain. Sure enough, as he said, after the two hypocritically exchanged a few rounds of attacks, Yunnan Dun probably felt that they had created enough momentum, so he purposely revealed a flaw. Jia Tuyao seized the opportunity to slap Yunnan Dun with his palm. Yunnan Dun fell to the ground with an "ah" and directly admitted defeat. Jia Tuyao smoothly won the fight. What disgusted Xiao Qin the most was that after the fight, these two people still seemed to appreciate each other. Jia Tuyao helped Yunnan Dun up from the ground and asked about his well-being in an especially gentlemanly manner. After that, they cupped their fists and saluted each other, then walked down the stage in a natural manner as if nothing had happened. Xiao Qin rolled his eyes, thinking, "Aren't you trying to show your chastity? There are not many fools on the scene. Who can't tell? Do you think others are fools or retarded?" The second match was between Jia Huoyin and a disciple of the Tang clan. Needless to say, this match was originally secretly arranged by Jia Tsugue, so Jia Huoyin easily got 3 points. On the surface, that disciple of the Tang clan had a look of regret, as if he was very regretful that he didn't get 20 pieces of spiritual jades. However, after he left the stage, he immediately put his arm around Jia Huoyin's shoulder and called him brother, as if they were a family. Next, Jia Muzin will fight against young Master Xing. The two of you please come up the stage and get ready. Below the stage, Xiao Qin and the others were still in a daze as they chatted. However, Uncle Gue, who was in the arena, stared at the two boring matches. He nearly fell asleep. Even when he announced the participants for the next match, his voice sounded weak. "Xiao Qin, I'll go up the stage." Jia Muzin was about to turn his head and tell Xiao Qin, but he saw that Xiao Qin was walking straight towards the stage. Jia Muzin was immediately confused. What is Xiao Qin going to do? Aren't foreign helpers not allowed to participate in the competition? Chapter 1051. Wow! Hey, isn't this the lady boy? We meet again. What a coincidence. Xiao Qin didn't treat himself as an outsider. He walked to the side of the arena and greeted Xing, who was preparing to enter the arena. "Ah, Xiao Qin? What are you doing here?" Xing blinked her eyes in surprise. She didn't pay attention to the people from the Jia family. Now that she saw Xiao Qin suddenly appear in front of her, she was obviously surprised. Jia Huoyin and Jia Tuyao were originally chatting with each other, but when they heard Xiao Qin's words, they immediately turned their heads and stared at Xiao Qin's every move. They were ready to report him to Jia Jinyan if he dared to do anything to threaten Miss Xing. "Oh, isn't this Jia Muzin who is preparing to be the successor of the Jia family? I just dropped by to help him with a small matter." Xiao Qin walked towards Xing enthusiastically. He kept saying, "Haha, it's a small world. I didn't expect to meet you here. How are you? How have you been recently?" Along with the greetings, Xiao Qin had already walked in front of Xing. He grabbed her hand and pretended to be affectionate. He sighed in his heart that the skin on this girl's hand was really soft. Xing frowned slightly. She subconsciously wanted to pull her hand out, but Xiao Chen held it firmly. She couldn't break free for a while. Although she was very unwilling, she couldn't figure out whether Xiao Chen was pretending to be intimate or really enthusiastic. It wasn't good for her to directly turn hostile. She could only say in a low voice, Don't mess around. This is the Jia family of the internal martial arts world. Do you think you are still in the secular world? What are you talking about? My ears aren't good. I can't hear you clearly. Although Xiao Chen said this, he still tactfully let go of her hand. Xing rubbed the back of her hand. She could still feel Xiao Chen's warmth on it. Her little face flushed red. At this moment, except for Jiang Yuzhen, everyone else looked at this scene in surprise. Xiao Chen actually held a man's hand? Furthermore, his actions were so natural and intimate. Could it be that this fellow had some sort of special hobby? Xiao Chen was oblivious to all the surprised and probing gazes. He continued to smile evilly at Miss Xing. Oh right, do you still remember that Wu Zhifei? It's fun, isn't it? Speaking of which, I've never seen a transvestite fly before. Why don't you try flying today? I don't know what you were talking about. I came to the Jia clan to participate in the competition. Don't talk nonsense. Lady Xing's face was still flushed red as she made up excuses. This was the first time she had been taken advantage of by a man. The strange feeling of being held by a man lingered for a long time. Seeing that the two of them seemed to be chatting in full swing, Jia Huiyan finally couldn't stand it anymore. Although he didn't know what Xiao Chen's intention was, he guessed that it was definitely not something good. He simply stood up and shouted, Xiao Chen. What do you mean by that? Young Master Xing is an honored guest invited by grandfather. You cannot be rude to him. That's right, can't we chat after the competition is over? Jia Tuyao also responded in a lukewarm tone. Why do you have to waste other people's time? Don't tell me you want to threaten young Master Xing so that Jiang Yuzhen can win without a fight? Oh, aren't the two of you too conspiratorial? I originally just wanted to catch up with an old friend. Since the two young masters Luther don't agree, then forget it. Xiao Chen innocently spread out his hands and threw a meaningful smile at Lady Xing. Young Master Transvestite, I'll say one last thing. Be careful of people flying in the sky. After he finished speaking, Xiao Chen turned around and leisurely returned to the spectators' stand. Lady Xing stared at Xiao Chen's back. In her mind, she couldn't help but recall the scene of Ma Zhifei falling from a height of more than 10 stories and directly becoming a pile of mud. Lady Xing couldn't help but shiver. She naturally understood the meaning of Xiao Chen's hint, but she was a little hesitant. She didn't know if she should continue to participate in the competition. After all, compared to spiritual jades, her life was more important. The Xiao Chen was too strange. Not only had his strength skyrocketed, but he also had all kinds of strange moves. Lady Xing was a little scared. Young Master Xing, you don't need to pay attention to that Xiao Chen. He's always this crazy and his words are always random. Just go on the stage and compete. If he really dares to disrespect you, let alone the Open Heaven sect, even the Jia family will not let him off easily. Jia Tuyao saw that young Master Xing seemed to be a little scared, so he hurriedly came up and comforted him. What a joke, he was hoping that young Master Xing would beat Jiang Yuzhen up so that he could vent his anger. How could he back off? Oh, I'm fine. Lady Xing's body shook and she came back to her senses. Although she was still a little worried, looking at the expectant audience and Jia Tuyao who was standing beside her, Lady Xing was afraid that she would be laughed at by others if she backed out of the competition. She could only take a deep breath, pluck up her courage and walk up to the stage. Ah, young Master Xing, how are you? I didn't think that we would meet again. Please show mercy. At this time, Jiang Yuzhen was already standing on the stage. He cupped his hands towards Lady Xing and said with a smile. Jiang Yuzhen was actually a little nervous. Just now, after seeing Xiao Chen chatting for so long, he thought that he could scare Lady Xing. He didn't expect that she would still come up to the stage. It seemed that Xiao Chen's plan didn't work. What did you say? Lady Xing was stunned for a moment and asked blankly. She was afraid that she would be plotted against at any time, so her attention was focused on Xiao Chen. She didn't hear what Jiang Yuzhen said at all. After asking this question, she didn't care about Jiang Yuzhen's answer, and turned her head to look at Xiao Chen. It would have been better if she didn't look, but when she looked, she felt even more guilty. She saw that Xiao Chen had found a human-shaped doll out of nowhere. He chuckled and casually threw it into the air. Then he let the doll fall to the ground with a plop. Then, with a face full of regret, he sighed and said, "AI, a beautiful transvestite girl died just like that. So pitiful, so pitiful. It really scared this Baobao to death." Looking at this scene, Lady Xing couldn't help but be angry and flustered. She felt that Xiaoqin was really too despicable. This hint was too obvious, wasn't it? The key point was that after Xiaoqin muttered to himself, he even winked at Lady Xing. Then he picked up the doll on the ground, broke off its head and limbs and casually threw it on the ground. He then muttered, "This is so pitiful. It's broken into pieces. I can't even recognize its beautiful face." "Yeah. Young Master Xing? Are you ready, please? Can I attack now?" Jianghu asked tentatively. In the end, Lady Xing didn't move at all. She didn't even reply. Instead, she stared at a certain place outside the stage with a face full of terror. Jianghu was a little puzzled. He also turned his head to take a look. He discovered that Xiaoqin was standing there, staring at the empty ground and muttering to himself. He didn't know what he was talking about. Chapter 1052. In fact, Xiaoqin just made an illusion in front of Qixing. There was no humanoid puppet at all. He relied on his acting skills to intimidate her. It seemed that the effect was quite good. Qixing bit her lower lip and thought carefully for a while. If I really win the competition this time, I will definitely offend Xiaoqin. The consequences are absolutely unimaginable. This man is a madman. God knows what he will do next. At that time, let alone 20 pieces of spiritual jades, I might even be disfigured and die. Seeing Jianghu's puzzled expression, Miss Xing took a deep breath and unwillingly said, "Jianghu, you've won this match. I admit defeat." After she spoke, she nodded towards Uncle Gue and repeated herself. Jianghu was slightly startled, but he naturally wouldn't ask for the reason. He just nodded politely and accepted the victory with a smile. He knew that it must be Xiaoqin's threat just now. Otherwise, how could Qixing, who was at the Demon King Great Perfection realm, admit defeat so easily? Hearing that young Master Xing actually admitted defeat, there was an uproar in the audience. The people from other sects suddenly exploded. They began to discuss and point. They didn't know what was going on with young Master Xing. Why did he suddenly admit defeat? Although they were discussing, there was a young man in the group who had an expression of understanding and rejoicing. He thought to himself that it was fortunate that he wasn't competing with Jianghu. Otherwise he would definitely admit defeat. This person was Shi Yuchuan. In fact, he discovered that Xiaoqin was present a long time ago. Originally he wanted to make connections everywhere, but he was forced to hide in the crowd. He didn't dare to be too ostentatious. He was afraid that after Xiaoqin saw him, he would find trouble with him. Jia Huoyan and Jia Tuyao almost exploded with anger. When Jia Jinyan announced the rules of the competition, they knew that they could no longer get the position of heir. After all, the score gap was too big. However, seeing young Master Xing and Jianghu fighting, they were still overjoyed. They only hoped that young Master Xing would teach Jianghu a lesson. It would be best if he could beat him until he couldn't even take care of himself. No matter how much he thought about it, he would never have predicted that the other party would give up on the competition. But if they really wanted to find out the reason, they could only find out that Xiaoqin and young Master Xing had chatted for a while before the competition, and even held hands with each other. It seemed like they were really just exchanging pleasantries, and did not use force to threaten young Master Xing. Thus, they could not use this matter to nitpick, or else they would definitely be ridiculed by Jia Jinyan again. After little Miss Xing finished speaking, she angrily stomped her feet. Hearing the buzzing discussions below the stage, she no longer cared about her face. She quickly jumped off the stage and left the martial arts practice field. Finding a corner, she took out her phone and quickly dialed a number. She planned to report the matter of Xiaoqin to the sect. "Little Xing? Aren't you participating in the competition at the Jia clan? Why do you have the time to call me?" After the call went through, Elder Son asked with a puzzled expression. "Elder Son, it's like this. I found Xiaoqin in the Jia family. According to him, he should be here to help Jianghu seize the position of the successor to the Jia family head. Therefore, I immediately gave up the competition and wanted to report to you as soon as possible." Little Lady Xing quickly explained. "What? Xiaoqin is in the Jia family?" Elder Son was also a little surprised. He quickly asked, "Other than Jianghu, is there anyone else by his side?" "I'm not too sure about this. I only saw him just before the competition. For the time being, I didn't find any other companions. Little Lady Xing recalled and said. How about this? You stay in the Jia family and secretly monitor Xiao Chen's movements. I will immediately report this situation to the sect leader and let him make a decision. Elder Sun made a prompt decision and instructed. Little Lady Xing was a little dumbfounded. But I will be leaving after the competition ends. I can't possibly stay in the Jia family for a long time, right? Otherwise Xiao Chen will definitely suspect me. Moreover, the Jia family might not agree to it. Elder Sun, do you think? Little girl Xing was extremely depressed. Elder Sun only needed to say a few words. How could it be so easy to stay? She didn't have any excuse. Why should she stay in the Jia family's house and refuse to leave? Can't you think of something yourself? For example, stay and observe or have dinner before leaving. You don't need me to remind you about such a small matter. I really don't know what else you can do. Elder Sun didn't wait for little Lady Xing to finish and interrupted her impatiently. Alright, that's enough. I have to hurry and report to the sect leader. Wait for my news. Little Lady Xing was about to reply when she heard a click sound from the phone. Elder Sun had directly hung up the phone. Little Lady Xing shook her head helplessly and put away her phone. She turned around unwillingly and walked back. In her heart, she cursed Xiao Chen a few hundred times. Damn Xiao Chen. Stinky Xiao Chen. Of all the times you could have appeared, why did you have to appear now? You caused me to be scolded again. What a jinx. My nemesis. Look, Xiao Chen. That young Master Xing is back again. What happened to her just now? Why did she run away as if she was possessed? Did you do something good? At this moment, Jianghu had already returned to the stage and was standing together with Xiao Chen. He just happened to see little Lady Xing pouting and walking into the martial arts practice field with a face full of unwillingness. It was as if she had suffered a great injustice. He couldn't help but ask curiously. Xiao Chen turned his head and glanced at her. He curled his lips and said, "Oh, she is always so strange. I merely used a trick and she was so scared that she peed her pants. You don't have to care about her. That's right, who is the next match?" When little Lady Xing was making a call outside the martial arts practice field, Xiao Chen had already used his divine sense to eavesdrop on the entire conversation. He didn't think much of it and didn't take it to heart. Right now, he only wanted to finish the match as soon as possible and quickly find a place to obtain some spiritual jades to level up. After all, he had already been targeted by the Awakening Heaven sect. Furthermore, the dust on the Jia clan's side had basically settled. Jianghu would definitely be able to smoothly ascend to the position of clan leader, so he didn't have to worry too much. Next, it will be Jia Renzhong versus Shi Yuchuan. Both of you please come on stage and prepare. Without waiting for Jianghu's reply, Uncle Gue had already announced loudly on the stage. Shi Yuchuan flipped over and jumped onto the stage. He cupped his hands towards the surrounding people and introduced himself with a humble face. "Hello everyone. I am the third-generation disciple of the Six Directions sect, Shi Yuchuan. Today I am deeply honored to be able to be a guest of the Jia clan, one of the three major clans of the inner martial arts circle. I will definitely go all out in the next match. I wonder which of the Jia people's young masters will be my opponent?" After talking for a while, Shi Yuchuan looked at the Jia clan disciples below the stage with a smile and waited for Jia Renzhong to stand up. "I am Jia Renzhong." Ouch. Jia Renzhong immediately stood up and raised his hand. However, he had only raised his hand halfway before he put it down. His face revealed a painful expression. He felt that his arm was incomparably painful. It was obvious that the injury he received in the morning had not healed. Chapter 1053. Holding his arm, Jia Renzhong took a few deep breaths and walked towards the arena while enduring the pain. Shi Yuchuan couldn't hide the joy on his face. He could tell at a glance that Jia Renzhong was injured. Moreover, the injury was quite serious. He reckoned that Jia Renzhong's battle prowess would be greatly reduced. It seemed that he could easily obtain 20 pieces of spiritual jades this time. This way he would be able to explain to the sect when he returned. The sect would definitely consider him as having made a great contribution. However, Shi Yuchuan's happiness didn't last long. The expression on his face immediately froze. This was because he saw Xiao Chen, who was standing at the side, move and walk towards Jia Renzhong. He couldn't help but secretly complain in his heart. Could it be that these two people knew each other? "Renzhong, wait a moment." Xiao Chen called out to Jiao Renzhong, who was walking towards the arena. He lightly patted his shoulder and asked with concern, "How are your injuries? If you can't hold on, don't force yourself. It doesn't matter if you win or lose, but if you get new injuries before your old ones have healed, it will be troublesome." "Big brother Xiao, I'm fine. Thank you for your concern." Jiao Renzhong was overwhelmed by the favor and quickly replied, "However, I must win this match. Otherwise, how can I be worthy of young Master Mu Sen's nurturing grace?" Jiao Renzhong was a little excited. Although he didn't know why Xiao Chen was so worried about him and even specially came up to ask about his well-being, since he was Jiao Muzen's external helper, he should be kind to him. Perhaps it was young Master Mu Sen who sent him to greet him. "Oh, since you insist, then I can only wish you good luck." Xiao Chen's eyes drifted and circled around Shi Yuchuan's body. Shaking his legs, he casually said, "However, as far as I know, your opponent is also weak. With your strength, you will definitely be able to beat him up. Do your best, Mu Sen, and I will protect you." "Big brother Xiao, how do you know that he is weak?" Jiao Renzhong was confused and asked in puzzlement. If the opponent was really weak, then he might have been able to defeat him in the past. However, his injuries had not healed yet and he could only use less than 30% of his strength. The probability of winning was much lower. "Don't ask so many questions. In short, if he dares to hit you, I'll let him have a good workout later." Xiao Chen said the last sentence very loudly. Then, he glared at Shi Yuchuan in a threatening manner and made an expression that said, "You know what I mean." Jiao Renzhong didn't know what to answer, so he could only agree. He didn't expect that Xiao Chen would be so arrogant, daring to say such harsh words in public. However, Jiao Renzhong didn't have time to think too much. He turned around and quickly walked up the ring, then saluted Shi Yuchuan. At this time, Shi Yuchuan's face was pale, and his back was cold and full of cold sweat. He thought he could win easily, but he didn't expect that Jiao Renzhong was Xiao Chen's friend. Wasn't this too much of a coincidence? Just a moment ago, he was still rejoicing that he didn't have to face Jiao Muzen and was able to escape from Xiao Chen's calamity. He didn't expect that he still couldn't escape. Moreover, Xiao Chen's words just now were clearly meant for him to hear. How could he fight now? If he really beat up Jiao Renzhong for the sake of 20 pieces of spiritual jades, he might be forced to stay in the Jiao family forever. Xiao Chen was a real lunatic and he was capable of anything. During this period of time, he had heard many rumors. This guy even dared to kill Ma Lanxiao, and he had even killed several experts from the Yin sect. How could he offend such a person? "Hello, big brother Shi. I am Jiao Renzhong from the Jia family. Please show some mercy later." After saluting, Jiao Renzhong said courteously. Shi Yuchuan's mind was in a mess. He didn't know what Jiao Renzhong was talking about, so he nodded his head in response. Uncle Gue saw that both of them were standing firmly on the ring, and that they were ready. He immediately waved his hand and said in a deep voice, "Let the match begin. Big brother Shi, please take this." Jiao Renzhong shouted loudly, and displayed the strength of a martial general level 9. He quickly rushed toward Shi Yuchuan, raised his hand and slapped his shoulder. Cough cough. Xiao Chen suddenly cleared his throat loudly below the ring. Wait a minute." To everyone's surprise, Shi Yuchuan didn't retaliate. Instead, he took a few steps back and made a gesture to stop the match. Seeing this, Jiao Renzhong hurriedly stopped his steps and looked at Shi Yuchuan in shock. He asked doubtfully, "Big brother Shi? What's wrong?" The pale Shi Yuchuan's eyes turned, and he stretched out his hand to press on his stomach. With a pained expression, he cried out miserably, "My stomach hurts so much." Jiao Renzhong blinked his eyes, a little puzzled. Why did this person suddenly have a stomachache? Wasn't he fine just now? Shi Yuchuan was in for a penny, in for a pound. He squatted on the ground holding his stomach and grumbled, "Ouch! It hurts so much, ouch. It must be because the seafood I ate at noon wasn't cooked. If I had known, I wouldn't have been so greedy." Actually, it wasn't a stomachache. Just now, when Uncle Gue announced the start of the match and Xiao Chen cleared his throat, Shi Yuchuan realized that the match must not continue. Otherwise, Xiao Chen would definitely not let him go. Therefore, he immediately stopped the match, and then chose to pretend to have a stomachache as the reason. "Big brother Shi, are you okay? Do you want to rest for a while? When your stomach doesn't hurt anymore, we can continue the match." Seeing Shi Yuchuan's pale face and sweaty back, Jiao Renzhong thought that he really had a stomachache, so he didn't doubt it. Instead, he asked with concern, No, I can't help it." Shi Yuchuan quickly waved his hand. His face was twisted and he asked in pain, "May I ask where your bathroom is? I have to solve it quickly. This match I give up. Just go out and turn right. Hurry up. You don't have to give up the match. I can wait for you to come back." Jia Renzhong pointed in the direction of the bathroom. Jia Renzhong felt that if Shi Yuchuan gave up the match, he would have an unfair advantage. Therefore he insisted on waiting for him to come back and continue. "Thank you." Shi Yuchuan didn't have time to refuse again. He nodded casually, jumped off the arena and ran out of the door. Then he randomly chose a direction and left the Jia family as if he was escaping. "Hey, the bathroom is on the right. You went the wrong way." Jia Renzhong looked at Shi Yuchuan's back and shouted anxiously. He wanted to remind Shi Yuchuan, but he found that Shi Yuchuan still ran toward the gate of the Jia family, not knowing whether he didn't hear it or didn't want to care. "Old master, what do you think about this match?" Uncle Gue asked with a bitter face. Shi Yuchuan was obviously going to escape, but Jia Renzhong was so stupid that he didn't realize it. He thought he really wanted to go to the bathroom. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.